Hey everybody, it's me, Greg Miller, and I wanted to let you know Comic-Con is coming up and Kinda Funny is going to be there. So if you're at San Diego, we have a bunch of stuff you can come do with us, and you don't even have to have a Comic-Con badge. On Thursday, we're going to Polite Provisions. We're doing a meet and greet there. 5 p.m. You don't need a Comic-Con badge. You do need to be 21. Don't blame me. Those are the drinking laws in the United States of America. Friday, we're doing the GameOverGreggy show at Petco Park as part of Geek and Sundry Studio Stage. No Comic-Con badges required. We're doing that at 3 p.m. And then I'm moderating a whole bunch of Comic-Con panels if you do have a Comic-Con badge, so come hang out with me in the convention center. All the details are up on kindafunny.com/news, so head over there for the full rundown.
What's up, everyone?
Everybody.
I'm sorry, what's up, everybody?
Thank you.
I like how out of all the years, Colin has never, ever adopted that. Because he's got the greetings and salutations.
Yeah.
And I like that about him. I think I should have my own thing.
What are you going to do?
Huzzah!
Huzzah!
Tis I, Scarpino.
Yarr. Yarr. And then you do a monocle.
Yarr.
That's an interesting choice. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the GameOverGreggy show. I'm one of your hosts, Greg Miller, alongside the producer/seducer, Nick Scarpino.
Yarr.
You having trouble producing a mic cover there?
Well, you got me all worried about my mic because it was like turned around for the last time we did this halfway through. So now I'm just double checking to make sure everyone can hear my sweet, sweet vocal musings.
Smart move.
Tones.
Yeah.
Over here, the pride of Long Island, Colin Moriarty.
It's good to be here with you today.
It's good to be here with you today. And over there, in a Shark Finnegan shirt, the pure one, Tim Gettys.
Let Tim host.
How you guys doing?
Good.
Everybody's happy?
Well,
I'm fine. I'm actually feeling pretty good.
Yeah?
I feel great.
Good. I'm exhausted. I have no reason to be so tired.
Well, you do, because you got 243 reasons.
Oh, that's right.
Plus some AR challenges.
I'm just starting
to
the
be
AR
exhausted.
challenges. Don't
Did
get ahead of
you,
yourself.
you found all the Riddler trophies?
All the Riddler trophies are done in Batman Arkham Knight. We've moved on to the AR challenges now.
Did you get like a bronze trophy for that?
I don't even know if it popped a trophy. I don't even know. I'm so focused on the platinum, Colin. I have no idea what's happening around it.
Arkham Knight's trophy list is fucking nonsense.
Whack.
It's as a scholar of PlayStation trophies.
Yeah, you are.
There's too many of them. I'm getting trophies for no reason in that game. It's like, oh, I just talked to this guy. Here's a trophy. And it's like, why are there so many bronzes? Because when there are so many bronzes, then there's fewer room for the golds and the silvers.
Of course.
There is an enormous amount of trophies in that game.
Yeah.
Because that's why I was surprised when you're like, oh, I have 30% of the trophies. I'm like, how is that possible?
Yeah.
But I've been playing. I have, I think, 18 trophies, and it's only like 21% or something like that. I'm like, all right.
Last night I was driving the Batmobile around when I was running up these final Riddler trophies, slid off of overpass, fell down on 2 wheels, and the trophy popped. I was like, I have no idea what the fuck just happened. No idea what. Maybe that was the drifting one. I'm not even sure.
It's better than PS3 though. Remember when trophies would pop on PS3 though? It would sometimes take like a half.
You couldn't load it up. Well, see, that's.
But I like that because sometimes trophies like you didn't know they were happening. Like there was 2 things with PS3 because the trophies would have to. They were loading on a separate thing, so it would take time for them to pop.
Yeah.
There were 2 things with that. A, like the nervousness of you knew you did something, and it's like, is it going to happen? Is it going to work? Because some trophies wouldn't, and it would take like forever sometimes for a trophy to pop. And you'd be like, what the fuck? And then the other thing was like the trophy would randomly pop, and you're like, I don't know what the hell just happened, and it might have been something I did like a minute ago.
I've been having I've been having PSN problems out there lately, and it's both a Wi-Fi issue and then this other thing, and then maybe just Arkham Knight being Arkham Knight 2, where like it'll pop and I'll hit the thing, and it wouldn't. First time it happened, it popped the trophy that was the I think it was the glide 20 meters without touching the ground, but within 20 yards of the ground or some shit like that. 400 meters, 20 yards of the ground, and so I'm like, okay, cool, and then it popped, and I was like, cool, I want to make sure that's the one. I clicked the button and nothing happened. I clicked the button, nothing happened. Click, nothing happened. And I mean, I'm clicking it to see it popping in trophies, but now it's not even going to XMB or to the home screen or anything. It's just going like, well, that's not normal. That's not right at all. That's not good. That is very, very bad. And so then it's going, and I landed, and I'm like, all right, cool. And I held it, and it finally popped out to the new XMB. I went over to trophies, go into it. It did like syncing with PSN, and it was 0%, and it was minutes at 0%. I was like, oh no. And I went in, and it wasn't loading icons, and then it was showing the one that I just popped is not being done.
Arkham Knight is whacking out PS4s, man. I'm telling you, because it catastrophically crashed my PS4, as we talked about on Colin Moriarty Live today. Yeah.
Now the thing about that is
like worse than any game's ever crashed my PS4.
The bat logo you're talking about that pops up in the corner, usually, and this is from Arkham City in Arkham Asylum before, that would be done when it was loading something that still hadn't loaded. You know what I mean? Because like they hide loading behind opening doors and stuff like that, but sometimes it would fuck up. And like, but I had the exact same thing happen to me where I'm just gliding through the city and then freeze, bat spinning logo, and then hard lock.
Yeah, it probably didn't. It wasn't able to. It wasn't able to stream
really the game.
That's crazy. No, that's crazy though, because that was actually one of my pros for the game was that I was like, I never noticed loading. With the of course the exception
these are one-off situations. It's not like it's the end of the world. Unless you're a PC player.
If that Batman logo, if that's the case, and the game was unable to stream. What was next? Probably why it's crashed. Because my PS4 crashed, and then like I couldn't even shut it off with the button. Like usually when you can hold it down with the button, and like
got the internet
I had to like remove the plug from the back of the PS4.
Damn.
Which is like really bad. And then I plugged it back in, and it would not turn on for like 5 minutes.
That's terrifying.
And I was like, oh no. I was like, my launch PS4 is dead. Fuck.
I've been noticing mine sounding more and more like a jet.
Yeah,
so I've been saving. I finish a game, I jump out, I immediately upload to the cloud. Or if the cloud isn't working, which happens all the fucking time, onto a USB.
Yeah, Witcher 3 sounds like a SpaceX hangar. It's like it's incredibly loud when I'm playing that game, and it's not even running a disc.
Terrifying.
Doesn't make any sense.
If you didn't know, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Game Over Greggy show. Each and every week, 4, sometimes 5 best friends gather on this table, each bringing a random topic of discussion for your amusement. If you like that, you can get the whole show by tossing us a few bucks early over on patreon.com/kindafunny. But if you don't want to give us any money, no big deal. Head over to youtube.com/kindafunny, where we break it up topic by topic and post it day by day until the entire thing goes up the following Friday as one big video and one big MP3. Colin.
Yes.
You're up first.
I was just thinking before I even say what the topic was that, someone in the comments of the first episode is always like, topic starts at this time,
Yeah.
And now we're going to get another one of those because we just went on a...
Well, that's how the show works.
Yeah. No, I agree. I
was always fuck off. Yeah. Phil DeFranco's got plenty of shows for you to watch.
I was always confused by that mentality because I was like, isn't that what makes Game Over Greggy's show fun?
You'd think so.
Yeah, it's really weird. It's weird
like you really want to get into the heart of the matter.
Like, yeah, let's actually, we want to hear their thoughts on whatever.
But maybe it's just a best friend throwing up the flare so that when we do get the random person who clicks for no reason to go hear what we're about to talk about, they don't come into the gay marriage topic and hear about Batman Arkham Knight for a while and Batmobile trophies.
It's not. It's a complainer complaining.
It's a whiner being a whiner.
Haters are gonna hate.
Yeah.
And you know what, Greg? If they hate, let them hate and watch the money pile up.
Okay.
50.
With a bottle of bub.
Yeah, there you go.
My show, my wrong.
But I thought it was funny to have that aside because it even adds more time until I get to the topic. So now, now we're actually gonna talk about the topic. So I'm batting. I hit a home run last week with the Confederate. That's enough, Greg. That's enough. Thank you. That's enough. I hit a home run last week with the Confederate flag topic, and so we thought we would go again. And what was so interesting last week is that 2 significant issues came across or came out of the Supreme Court. I mean, they render a lot of decisions at the same time. No one cares about any of those.
How often is the Supreme Court decision coming around?
Pretty often, but they'll have days where they release like 15 or 20, and then they go away for a little while.
It's like a PSN update.
Exactly. And it's funny, like AP has these things where it's like their faces, like the 9 Supreme Court justice faces, like colored in or grayed out for how they voted, and it's always like Ann Scalia is like always no on everything. Because he's a nut job.
He's taken a lot of crap for the last week. A lot of shit.
Yeah, he's an interesting person. He's a strict constructionist, as they call him. In other words, he doesn't believe the Constitution is a living document. But we talked about the Confederate flag, which is not really a constitutional issue as much as it's just a issue of good taste. But we did have a Supreme Court decision about gay marriage that I wanted to talk about. Gay marriage has been legalized in the United States. The states have been voting on it. The states have usually been voting it down. But states vote up things like civil unions and stuff like that, but they don't believe, and a lot of states don't believe in gay marriage. But the Supreme Court said that according to the 14th Amendment, which is one of the Civil War amendments, that it is, unconstitutional to deny a gay person the right to marry another gay person. So I was curious about what your guys' thoughts about this were, and we're all pretty much, I think, unanimously pro-gay marriage, so I think we know what that's going to be. But my question to you, moreover than that, is what do you think the next civil rights movement will be? Because, obviously there's still a gay rights movement. gay people are still disrespected in many different ways, but it seems like the tide is turning now. This is a very symbolic thing for the gay rights movement. I was even reading a piece, and I don't know if it was from Andrew Sullivan or someone where he was writing like, there's a little bit of remorse in the gay community right now because they don't feel one of the things that rallied them for so many decades as a community and kind of uplifting each other was how they were different and how they had a fight to fight, and now they're having fewer and fewer fights, and now they're just becoming more and more normal and ingrained in society, and there's a little bit of remorse about that, about how like maybe there's less that differentiates.
Something that was such a point of pride and special is a little lessened now. I can like, appreciate that. It
was fighting against the machine, being like, we want these rights, and then the machine's finally like, okay, and like, and it's like, okay, now what? You know?
Yeah.
Now you live. So I was curious how you guys felt about the decision and the reaction to the decision, and then what you think the next fight is, because I have something very specific in my mind, and I think the next civil rights fight is going to be. But I'm curious what you guys think. So,
I'm thrilled. It spoke to. I thought we have a conversation with Colin in the books. That's the right and wrong side of history in the gay marriage or whatever. Was happy to see that come around and people be on the right side of history on this one. But I was more excited by the reaction, which on Twitter was universally happy. Super super happy.
Well, and maybe in our circle, not.
Sure, but I'm talking about our circle.
The internet, man. I mean, I think that's a big thing, though. It's like I was surprised with how little negativity I saw.
Yeah.
Without searching for it, I'm sure it's out there, and
of course it's out there. Yeah, I've seen those articles and stuff
of people, but like there was none of that the hatred and stuff.
Yeah.
In front of me, and I think that's a good sign because in past experiences it has been.
Yeah,
like I definitely whenever this stuff came up, it was always like there always was people that disagreed in ways that I was like, what? That doesn't make any sense to me. I can't comprehend you being like thinking this way. What is Kevin doing right now?
I don't know. I'm actually less fascinated by what Kevin's doing and more fascinated by watching Colin watch what Kevin's doing. Because Colin gets this look on his face where he's like, he's got this internal bet going in his head. This is
the one.
This was the day I put $50 on Kevin falling through the fucking window and cutting open his jugular.
There's just so much movement. So much movement with everything he does.
You have a grace to you in the way you move. And
you have the moves like Jagger, they say.
You do. Where it is fascinating that you haven't destroyed the world around you already.
Let's go back to the topic.
Come on. When we put up the conversation with Colin, right and wrong side of history and stuff, I remember more people wanting not to fight it, but to talk the other side to me kind of thing. And when this happened, there was only one commenter on my Twitter who, when I was like talking about it, popped up and was like, this still isn't that good of an idea, da, da, da. And then like I started commenting to that person, and then within 45 minutes he deleted his Twitter account because everyone was coming to him, and he was like, I've never been more bullied than before. And people were like, you're not being bullied, you presented an argument we don't agree with, and we're responding to it respectfully. And I'm sure there were people who were bullying him or whatever, but the majority of comments I was seeing were like, because it was a guy, he was basically saying like, this doesn't matter, like this is fine, but like they still can't be parents. They still shouldn't be able to adopt children or whatever kind of thing. Like mother and father
first
love
of all,
is what's
a single
needed.
person can adopt a child, so that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
That argument holds no water. I don't know. I mean, I'm on the same side too, where I woke up and I'm usually very oblivious to big news that's happening. You guys very well know, between the three of you, you keep me current. If I didn't have you guys in my life, I'd just be operating in a void where I'd still think it was 1989. But waking up on Twitter that day was phenomenal.
Yeah,
I mean, like I saw all of you guys that already had tweets that were out. Colin, I specifically remember your tweet. It was cool. It was very powerful, and it's very powerful to also see the sort of next generation of people on the internet using social media to promote that positive energy, which I think is honestly it's got to be one of the most powerful tools out there. And you guys talk about, obviously I hope no one, even regardless of your views, ever gets bullied. But when you're talking about social change, there is a fair amount of energy that has to be put into that, right? And there has to be a unity that has to go along with that. It's the social tide, right? It's the social sort of like zeitgeist that has to be a collective issue. I think I might be losing myself in all of these, but I think you guys are following me. And seeing that, waking up and seeing that tide and seeing that sort of like that unity, really is a very, very powerful thing. And it makes me wonder, like, is the internet in general or is social media that tool that's really going to help accelerate these changes in our lives? Are we going to see more of this, and are they going to come faster, right? Because should this... I mean, you're talking about all the great civil rights movements that have happened. The civil rights movement, obviously, that happened in our country, and then also, women's rights and their fight, and now gay and lesbian rights. It's all happening so fast and accelerated, and it makes me very, very proud, and it makes me think that we're doing more right in this country than we are wrong, and in reality, we're probably not.
Yeah, but I just think it is a step in the right direction, and I mean, like, when it comes down to it, before it was entirely controlled by media. Now it's entirely, like, media is entirely controlled by social media. Everyone creates media. There's no longer just a media that is this thing that is, different than who you are. Everybody is the media. Everybody is the message. Everybody is doing this themselves. And it was interesting for me to see, because every time these big things happen, you see the armchair activists, you see the people that are like, don't know what the hell they're talking about, or just whatever, participating just because, like, it's like a fashion statement more than anything. We're just like, oh, everyone's talking about this, I'm going to say something about it, even though they don't know what they're talking about. And like, you see them like, oh, everyone's changing their profile pictures to be whatever it is. But this time
it was rainbow.
this is like putting the rainbow and stuff over that. But it's just like, who gives a shit about if it's real, it's fake, if they know what they're talking about, whatever. They're promoting positivity. They're promoting love. They're promoting something good. Who cares about they don't really know what they're talking about? Because I'm seeing a lot of people argue that. And I'm like, come on, guys. But what was special to me is seeing the corporations jump on this. And that argument can be made for there. It's like, oh, well, they're just doing it for public image, and they're just doing it so that people rally behind them. It's like, well, let's stop and appreciate for a second that they are doing something to support gay marriage to gain the public's like thumbs up. That's fucking awesome. There's definitely been a swing of the pendulum of the views on that, because even just a few years ago, you wouldn't see
they would have stayed
every single corporate logo on Twitter and on everything being a freaking rainbow.
Well, it's fascinating too, and as far as these big tech companies are concerned, how much power they have in influencing and setting policy. And I'm trying to remember the example that happened a few months back. It was what state went out and spoke out vehemently against gay marriage. I forget which one it was.
A lot of them.
And I forget. I'll have to. Kevin, maybe you can look this up. But it was one of those where, and I think it was like Google and Oracle and all the big tech companies were like, "We're not operating in your state anymore." And they were like, "Shit!"
No one can search Google from your state.
No, it wasn't that. It wasn't Google specifically, but I think
I know what you're talking about.
Do you know, one of the governors came out and said, "We're not. We don't support gay marriage," and they were like, "You know what? Then we don't support you anymore." And like he turned around very, very quickly, because it's just not socially acceptable anymore. You really can't think that way anymore, because it's becoming more and more apparent that is a kind of a bigoted and prejudiced perspective on life. Like,
and it's
you are
interesting
really
Greg said the bully thing, because it's just like that guy felt like he was being bullied, and it's like, that's not cool. You shouldn't bully anybody for anything, even if their opinions are mean. But it's like, that's cool. That's you are now the asshole. It's no longer you are correct for this, or that they are the other people in the wrong. It's like they're in the minority. Yeah. At least from the socially accepted
in that circle, view. Sure.
Yeah, I think that, this is such a complicated, multifaceted issue, because I've been in pro-gay marriage for a very long time, and a lot of people think that doesn't sync up with my conservative views, but one of the things I tweeted that got retweeted about 1,000 times actually was that this is actually a conservative victory, and that our politics is so backwards in the United States that the party that based itself on classical liberalism, which is like a live and let live kind of Jeffersonian kind of outlook on life, doesn't realize that this is a victory for them. That we have one party that wants the government involved in everything, and one party that doesn't want the government involved in anything unless it's something that the Bible tells them is wrong. And it's just an inconsistent worldview. That's why I'm pro-choice. That's why I'm pro-gay marriage. It's because it's the right of the individual. It's sacred. It's an inalienable right. It's a sacred right. And some people are like, well, this might lead to polygamy and stuff like that. Like, what's next? Polygamy or something? I'm like, sure, why not?
Yeah, why not? Who cares?
Like, I don't care. If consensual adults want to get married in a fivesome, then whatever. I really don't give a fuck. You know,
having been married for 3 years, that's a terrible idea. Yeah. But more power to you if you want to do that.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
If I had more than one wife, I would leave the house. I would just lock myself in a room, but like, leave me alone, and rock back and forth.
Now, here's the complicated thing, and it's something I want to bring up, because I do like to bring up the opposing argument. There's a lot of bigots out there. There's no doubt about it, right? There are people out there that have that I feel like don't know, or maybe aren't necessarily being bigoted, but do have issues with it on a basis of religion or something like that. And I respect that. You know what I mean? I don't think it's a consistent view because the Bible does say a lot of shit that we don't accept anymore, but for some reason everyone has latched onto this particular thing, ignoring the fact that the Old Testament talks about things like, I don't know, slavery and murder and all these kinds of things. But we ignore all of that. But yeah, okay, all right. So, but nonetheless, I respect that is a worldview some people have. That is not... What people don't seem to understand, or some people that are really up in arms about it don't seem to understand, is that the Supreme Court didn't say, like, 2 gay people can now walk into the Catholic Church and get married. That's not what it says. It says that they can be married by the state.
It says the state will legally recognize that now.
Exactly. And
by the way, it was already legal in, 16 states?
It depends on if you're talking about civil unions or marriages. But I'm going to get to this issue in a minute because it's an issue that I think presses to the heart of the matter of, like, why this is a big deal in a grander way. We... in a society, have crossed religion and civics to an extent that the founders would be very uncomfortable with. And I do agree that it would be a problem constitutionally to walk into, to force a church to marry a gay couple if they don't want to. I believe that's wrong.
Yeah.
You know, because I do respect the religious conscience of certain people, but you would need to now be able to walk into a state house or a state sanctioned place and be able to get married. And I think that that's great because even though the libertarian philosophy dictates that, like, government shouldn't be involved in marriage, the fact of the matter is the government is very involved in marriage and you can't turn back that clock. There are tax ramifications, there are estate planning ramifications, there's spousal privilege, there's all sorts of shit that gay people cannot enjoy even if they've been together 10, 20, 30 years, and it's not fucking acceptable. You know what I mean? Like, we can't have different rights for different groups of people. It's just not right. And to your point, a lot of states, when states began voting popular vote for gay marriage, voted it down. And this is why you cannot vote on minority rights. This was something that Jefferson and Adams warned us about in the 18th century. You cannot. It's called the tyranny of the majority. The majority cannot vote on the minority. You can go to certain states and ask the electorate crazy shit, and they're going to vote it up or down. You know what I mean? I'm sure that there's a state in the union that you can go to over and over and over again and it's going to say no to gay marriage over and over again. Multiple states. And multiple states have done that. Many states have done that. That doesn't make it right. There's no wisdom in tyrannical majority voting. You know what I mean? That's why you don't vote on rights. That's why the majority doesn't rule for everything.
Right.
Because the minority cannot protect itself. And that's why we should have never been voting on these issues to begin with. And that's why I feel like the Supreme Court had to get involved. And it reminds me a great deal of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, where the argument, like Goldwater's argument against it, was not necessarily that he was a bigot. I don't know if he was or not. I don't know the man. A lot of their arguments were like, well, we can't have the Civil Rights Act because we can't tell private companies what to do. If they want to refuse the service to someone, then they should be based on whatever. Then that's probably their right. The argument from there was that, like, bigoted institutions would eventually go out of business. And my argument to that is sometimes you have to do things that are maybe, I don't want to say extra constitutional, but wiggle their way into the Constitution in a different way because it's the fucking right thing to do. And the Civil Rights Act was the right thing to do. There was no time to waste. There was no time to let the system figure it out. People are dying.
Right.
You know? And with gay marriage, it's the same thing. It might be a loose interpretation of the 14th Amendment. It might ignore the 10th Amendment a bit, but it's the right thing to do. Yeah. And sometimes that's an important thing to keep in mind.
It's dangerous though, because it doesn't become the right thing to do until it becomes almost an overwhelming majority of people telling the government that is the right thing to do, right? So where does that line get drawn? Is like 10 years ago, it was still the right thing to do. 20 years ago, it was the right thing to do. What changed now that it finally became caught up as, like, where did that pendulum swing from, okay, this is not going to happen, to all of a sudden, almost seemingly overnight, boom, it's legal?
Popular opinion, dude.
Yeah, it's mainstream, right? It went mainstream. Once people
yeah.
understand what's happening and they know gay people and they see positive gay people being represented on TV and stuff. Mm-hmm. Once it's not a in the closet issue, once it's not these people gave us HIV, then it's a different story, right? It all comes down to exposure.
Yeah, and what's so funny about that is that, you know, I've talked about this, I think, a little bit in the past, that the social media and kind of reality television era, so like the last 15 years, not so much for social media, but more for reality television, and the internet really has taken social issues and pushed them to the left, with the exception of one. Pro-choice is actually more popular, or pro-life rather, has actually become more popular the last 20 years. But other than that, everything else is swinging to the left, and it's because what Greg is saying, like, there's just exposure to things you didn't know existed or didn't anticipate or didn't understand. And the gay marriage issue specifically, and public opinion polls on gay marriage swung radically in the last 10 years, like radically.
Yeah, they have.
Like maybe to the extent of like 25 or 30 points, which is insane. That's fucking insane. So something that doesn't happen with anything. something, usually politics in a movement is very glacial. So I do think it had a little bit of activism in the court, and that's not always the appropriate thing, but that's the right thing to do. But I applaud this court for passing this, and I appreciate the arguments against the 10th Amendment, and I appreciate the arguments, the religious conscience arguments. I think that the 10th Amendment wasn't written to ensure that if the rights weren't enumerated in the Constitution, that they're always to the rights of the state necessarily when it comes to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, which is not, of course, in the Constitution, but something that we live by in this country. And I think it's important to recognize that gay people were discriminated against and are still discriminated against, and we need to right the wrong, just like the way we need to right the wrong with racism and sexism. We need to right the wrong here. It's the right thing to do, and it is a victory for the individual. It is a victory. It doesn't affect your marriage. It doesn't affect your church. It doesn't affect fucking anything.
I know, and that's the thing that kills me so much about it. Is it's like it would be, it's not like the argument for immigration, right? Where you're like, well, they're coming over, like immigrants are coming to the country and they're using resources, and that's something you have to consider, right? Or they're taking jobs, right? You always hear that they're taking jobs, especially in California where you have, Mexican immigrants coming in and quote unquote taking jobs. I don't have any statistics. I'm not going to speak to that, right? That has an added layer. What is the downside to letting more people get married other than what? There's going to be more money put into the system, and they have, I guess, some tax breaks, but like it doesn't affect my marriage at all. If you two, let's be honest, when you two decide to finally tie the knot,
right?
I announced it that morning.
Yeah, I know. So when that happens, it really won't affect me one way or the other. There's no rights that are going to be taken away from me so that you guys can enjoy that right and that happiness and that privilege. So it's almost one of those things where you're like, this is just a point of pride or ego or some sort of random deep-seated hatred or fear or prejudice that doesn't make any sense when you actually start thinking logically about it.
Exactly. Yeah. It doesn't make sense.
I have a question for you though, Colin. Do you think that you see a lot of right-wing candidates that are coming in, they're getting office, and they always have to answer the question of this, or they either have to skate around the issue of gay marriage, or they have to answer, and you can see them cringing in the back of their brain because they don't actually believe the answer half the time. Does this take that off the table now?
Yeah, that's one of the big, really popular arguments right now is that they will be asked about it in immediacy, but it's not a question anymore.
It's legal.
Any
now they can answer it's legal.
Yeah, well, and that's, I think,
can't change that.
We need to respect our courts and what they've said.
Yeah, I think that's Jeb Bush's answer was basically like, it's just the courts have spoken. Like, we the beauty of the American system is that and the beauty of our republic, and we are not a democracy, which is another reason why we don't directly vote on issues like this, is that we have beautiful, almost the most elegant separation of powers that ultimately allows the court to settle these issues. A court that there are Reagan nominees in the court still. It's all sorts of people that are.
It's scary.
I love it. I love that the people are put into the court and they cannot be removed.
Has to.
And that's the way it is because they have to have no political pressure put on them at all to make decisions, and that is the beautiful thing. They can be removed if they're impeached, but that they can't be impeached for their opinion. They can be impeached if they're acting, with
misconduct.
impropriety. But I just feel like it's the right thing to do. There comes ultimate moments where, and I saw a John Oliver video about this that I thought was really pressing about transgender rights, which I'm going to get to in a minute because I think that is the next civil rights movement in this country, is that there's such obviousness about what Greg was talking about before with the right side of history. And you shouldn't necessarily believe in anything because you are going to be on the wrong side of history or the right side of history. You should believe maybe what you're going to believe. But know that if you are against this, you are on the wrong side of history. And I thought it was a powerful argument to be like, it's predictable. We know how this ends. This happens over and over and over and over again. And resistance lessens until the rights are garnered to a new group of people. So I applaud, the gay community in the United States for this because I think this is a big step forward for them. I think it's a big step forward for liberty. I think it's a big step forward for individual rights and the values of the individual and the individual to make their choices. And I also think that if it leads to, the whole polygamy argument and all these fucking random arguments, like ultimately it's none of the government's business what people are doing. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. As long as they're not hurting anyone. And this is the antithesis of hurting someone. This is loving someone. Is their divorce rate going to be just as high as straight people? Absolutely. Are lawyers 100%. Going to reap the benefits in 5, 10, 15, 20 years from the influx of gay marriages that are going to be happening now, just like straight marriages? Absolutely. There's all sorts of unintended consequences, but that's just the market working. It doesn't mean that you have to pull back on rights.
Yeah, that's not an argument for not giving people the right to do it.
Exactly. It's all very silly. Now, to the original question I asked, like, what do I think the next civil rights act will be a movement? I think it's absolutely going to be gendered people, and this is a group of people that I feel very badly for because this is still a question. This is still something that is misunderstood and not understood. This is something that some people throw around things like mental illness and all these kinds of things. And I think it's wrong. And here's what I have to say about this. There used to be a question of, is homosexuality, for instance, a choice, or is it something that is born in you?
With, right?
And I think it's pretty obvious that you're born with it. Yeah. But my argument used to be, if it's a choice, what does it matter? You know what I mean? Let's say it was a choice. Who cares? It doesn't change the fact that is their right to do that. And so when people bring up this new issue with transgendered people about, is it their choice? Do they choose to be a man or a woman? Is it something that's born into them? Is there a chemical imbalance? Whatever it might be. And I'm like, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day.
Do you?
Exactly.
I think that the argument for that was, if it was a choice, then it can be, you can be fixed, or quote unquote.
I know that. But there's also a thing of like, if it's a choice, it's the same thing with gay marriage or just homosexuality generally. If it's a choice, then it's not something that necessarily needs to be accepted by society. And to me, that is wrong. To me, it's about saying, like, if a man is born a man but he feels like a woman and he wants to be a woman, and so she is a woman. And I struggle sometimes with the he, she, the he or the she. Right? Yeah. I confuse that sometimes. Never intentionally.
But I think that again, that's the education thing, and that's what Greg was saying, is that now like the gay thing is such a mainstream. Like everybody knows how to deal with that, and everybody has dealt with it. Like,
well, it's because I mean, to Colin's point, like people who are transgender, that is not as in the mainstream as being gay.
Well,
that's
what I'm saying. Yeah.
So to me, it feels like we're almost 30 years ago with that.
Yeah.
Where we were with homosexuality in the 80s, we are with transgendered people now. And it sucks because the answer to this is it's going to take another 20 years. I mean, even in the workplace, like, we've worked with transgender people. We worked with them at IGN. We worked with I've worked with them all around. It's not. They're still looked at as sort of, I don't want to even throw a term out because I don't want to reinforce that negative stereotype. But it's not something that you see every day, because people are too goddamn afraid to come out. Like, look at what just happened. Finally, someone had the chutzpah to come out and be like, this is who I've been all of my life, through 3 marriages, 4 kids, all this stuff. I am a woman, and that was a phenomenal thing that Caitlyn Jenner did for transgender people. Like, having just the sheer willpower to do that must have been terrifying for Caitlyn Jenner. Coming out, doing that, living like that now, and actually, of course, now there's an E! show about her, which, I'll be honest, I'll probably watch because I'm fascinated to see what her life's going to be like, right?
About, yeah, the fact
this
that
is
you
what's
need
necessary.
That.
And that's true. And to more power to E! God bless him. Like, most of the time, I don't look at E! As anything that gives society anything worthwhile. But on this specific instance, like, this is awesome, and this is what needs to happen.
That's the thing, and like, I think that's what we were talking about earlier with the mainstream and all these people. Like, all the corporations are only doing it kind of like as a fashion statement to say, hey, look, I'm cool. But it's like, we can't look at it for that. Who gives a shit about that? It's the fact that they're putting out this positivity. Like, another thing is, I've seen so many jokes, and a lot of people have actually tweeted at me being like, oh man, thanks to Macklemore, like, now the gays are good, like, everything's fine. And it's just like, don't hate on Macklemore for this. Like, who gives a shit? Like, people will always bring up the argument of like, oh, it's a white rapper that's not gay using all of this to make a song, just whatever. And it's like, who cares? He put out something positive.
Well, first of all, he put out something genuine as well. It's not like he was just randomly throwing out any sort of that messaging because he's like, this is going to sell records.
I know. Anything, it's people the opposite. People might argue the opposite of that, though.
I'm sure there was a certain portion of him or his team or his thought process that was like, how do I make this as popular as possible? Because that's what we all do. But to a certain degree, like, guess what? Every sort of messaging, anytime you want to affect any sort of change, there is a fair amount of marketing that has to happen in that, right? And there have been a lot of thought leaders that have promoted that sort of change over the last 30 years, who have worked really, really hard and put their safety and their family's safety on the line to go out on a limb and say, this is how you should believe because this is the right thing to do. But they're, especially in the mainstream media, especially Hollywood. Hollywood is very much for pro gay rights. because there are a lot of homosexuals in Hollywood, and the fact of the matter is, like, that is a huge marketing vehicle to promote that positive change. That's what has to happen. And now we're starting to see that again, where there's a show on E about a transgendered person, and it is not being negatively received.
Well, see, that's what I was saying. Awesome. It's like the argument to be made there is like they're only doing that because it's controversial, and it's like they're marketing that. It's like, well, it is. Don't worry about that. Like, this is a good thing. You know what I mean? Like, look at that for the positivity.
The danger with that is, of course, when they also market Kim Kardashian, and a lot of people would look at her and be like, okay, well, we're oversaturated with this. We don't necessarily need her. That whatever message, whatever she represents, do we need more of that in this culture?
Exactly, but whatever.
I mean, but they'll speak to different audiences.
That's true.
Different
I'm not saying Kim Kardashian's wrong. I think she's she is what she is. She's entertainment.
I believe you just said Kim Kardashian is the biggest threat to transgender acceptance.
No, that would be.
I'm just telling you what I heard.
Don't even joke about that, because her father just became Caitlyn Jenner. Like,
I know.
Yeah.
I was going to say
she's been very, very accepting.
I was going to say that
no one really thinks you just said that.
I was going to say that she was. I watched the whole thing of like the whole special of him kind of coming to terms with this and talking to his kids and all this kind of stuff, and she was by far the most supportive of all of them.
Yeah.
And I thought that showed a great deal of character on her part too. A lot of people give her shit, but I think she's still one of the most brilliant businesswomen in the entire United States.
Absolutely is.
And she's laughing all the way to the bank. So hate away. She's the one who has the last laugh, guaranteed. But there's a few. So I agree with you. Caitlyn Jenner, the Bruce Jenner, Caitlyn Jenner thing, I think was a very brave and bold move, and I think that Vanity Fair should also be applauded for that. And I'm sorry,
just real quick, I think because a point I was trying to make earlier is I feel like that was from the marketing perspective, all that. The "Call Me Caitlyn," I think that alone, that statement is like such a huge step forward for the transgender stuff, just because it's like, I'm not Bruce, I'm Caitlyn. Call me Caitlyn.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like I feel like that is part of the getting it into the mainstream and educating people on how you're supposed to respond. Like earlier, you're saying we're not so sure. Like, is it
I get confused sometimes because Caitlyn Jenner is a good example of the fact that like, and this is where things get complicated. You assume that because Caitlyn Jenner is was a man and wants to be and feels a woman and becomes a woman, that he is therefore gay, but he says that he's not.
Nope.
You know, so like then the layers like get deeper and deeper. Like he's always been attracted to women. He just feels like a woman. So like it takes education and learning, and you're going to make mistakes, and that needs to be acceptable. And to the credit of the people that make mistakes, some people are way too hard on the people that make mistakes.
Yeah,
because it is it's a brave new world. Like you don't.
That's the other thing too. Is it's for the longest time, especially since for 36 years, I've operated under the assumption that there are a set amount of things that I need. Like there are a set amount of variants. Right. This is a new one. Like if you're a man, you're either homosexual, heterosexual, or bisexual, right? So generally, yeah, you're in that category. But then now there are people out there that maybe don't want to necessarily define themselves by those three categories.
Fuck
and
your
we have
labels,
to be
Nick Scarpino.
Okay with that,
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and that's the important thing.
There's also a fourth one, but that's whatever Kevin
Asexual.
is. Whatever Kevin does.
Oh, good lord!
I'm not going to bring it up, Kevin. I just wanted to throw it out there to lighten the mood.
I feel like, so I think that, again, I feel like it's an issue of, it's a delicate issue. And, to the people that have a religious issue with it, I respect your religious issue. Understand that we live in a secular society and your religious issues aren't really important in terms of the way we deal with, things in society as a civic society. Mm-hmm. I will be in your corner if the Supreme Court goes the Catholic Church and the Jewish, you can go to synagogue or whatever, and you have to marry gay people, and it's even though it's against your religious doctrine. Frankly, I'll be right in your corner, and I'll say that's totally wrong because that infringes on your religious rights.
Right.
Just as your feeling of thinking that your religious doctrine can affect the rights of a homosexual who might not believe in your religion, who might be an atheist, who might be of a different religion, or who just doesn't give a fuck and just wants to get married. They're not interested in banging your fucking church door down and getting married in your church.
Right.
And if that doesn't happen, and that's not going to happen, then it's a live and let live society. We are a secular society. There is a separation of church and state that is explicit. And so your religious concerns are totally valid. I come from a religious family, but it's not relevant to the argument.
I mean, but that's the problem, though. I mean, you see, like, so much of our government is tied in with religion, and so to a point that it's confusing. It really is, because especially if you're growing up as you're a teenager, like how would you would see senators or people running for president talking about God, and you would assume that those two are intrinsically tied together, and they are not, and they should not be, but they kind of are. Right. That's where that comes in. The other problem is, and the other question is, a lot of gay people are Catholic. Like
Yeah, no shit, man.
So what do you do there?
I mean,
in that regard, yeah, you can't. The way I look at it is, you can't force a corporation to provide a service that they don't want to have to provide, right? I mean, I guess you.
Well, this is the thing. This is where things get muddy, and I respect that this is going to be a bit of a mess for some companies, because the Civil Rights Act of 1964 says you can't do that. So. It was the whole like lunch counter argument and all that kind of thing. Black people sitting at the lunch counter at Howard Johnson's or whatever to get served, and they wouldn't be served, and they were removed, and all these kinds of things. So,
but maybe that's good. Maybe that social pressure will force the Catholic Church specifically to bend a little bit to it, right? I mean, we've already seen, everyone always talks about how this Pope is a little bit more liberal than everyone else. Maybe that is the next step where they do start beating on the doors and saying, why can't we get married under God? If we can get married in the state, how come our God is not the same as your God? We believe the same that you do. We just have this one little minor.
Yeah, this is coming from a backwards institution that doesn't even let women be priests. But I digress.
And I was gonna say that's a fight that drove me away from the Catholic Church, that it has been being fought for more than my entire lifetime, and there's been no movement. Maybe new Pope changes that, but if new Pope can change that and change this, then he's not new Pope. He's super Pope.
He's not ultimately not going to change anything. They can't even get married, which is like ridiculous. Jesus was married. I hate to tell you. So I know the Bible doesn't say that.
They glossed over that conveniently, Colin.
Well, they leave out a few years.
But Dogma covered it all.
But
go watch the documentary Dogma.
I was also reading that he had a brother as well, but I don't know if that's what the historicity of that is. So I appreciate that there's all sorts of nuance, right? And I think that
what was his brother's name?
Jim Christ.
Jim Christ.
Hi,
I'm Jim Christ. Yes, I am relation to Jesus.
So I appreciate that there's a lot of meat on the bone, right? There's a lot of things to consider that, because I really do believe in religious freedom as well, and we have to respect a person's religious freedom. But in the civic sphere, that doesn't take precedence over the inalienable rights of the individual, and so that's why I think that this is a victory. And you can have it both ways. I really do believe that. If the church doesn't want to marry, and whoever they want to marry, that's their right as a religious institution,
a private club.
Exactly, but that's not what the question is.
But as well, though, I mean, like if I'm not super religious, they wouldn't marry me either. Like I can't go into a Jewish synagogue and get married.
Exactly,
I can't do that.
and I go Catholic.
I have friends that have had to convert to Judaism, and it is a process. They're serious about that. They're not screwing around.
Dude, I didn't get confirmed, so I can't get married in the church.
Yeah,
and I'm Catholic.
And that's fine.
So I'm an atheist, but I'm culturally Catholic. Like I would get married in church if they would let me, but they're not. So
it's exactly
rules.
like Kevin.
There's rules.
Kevin can't work here anymore unless he gets me a cup of coffee. It's exactly the same way.
I quit.
He's standing up for himself. This kitten's got claws.
I want to close. I want to close with a couple of thoughts, if I may, to our audience. It's important for you guys to realize and understand that you are welcome here with us, regardless of your sexual orientation, regardless of your gender identity, regardless of any of those things. There's a lot of hate out there, and it's a very uncomfortable place for people that feel different to feel safe and at home somewhere. And you are at home here with us. We don't judge you for the choices you make. We don't judge you for the way you feel, because I don't think it's a choice. I don't understand why so many people still think it's a choice. Why would you choose to be different if you didn't have to be? It makes no sense, and put yourself in peril and put maybe even your life in danger sometimes, or put your happiness or your success or your career in danger. So you're welcome here with us, and there's no room for bigotry at Kind of Funny. And for those of you that are uncomfortable with that or uncomfortable with these decisions or whatever, that's totally fine. We respect that too, but we want to keep the debate and the conversation around this respectful as well. I think the homosexual community in the United States, the gay community, has scored a great victory. I am now ready to fight the cause for the transgender acceptance movement as well, which I think is very important, because it's important for people to be happy and to feel accepted. And that's not an issue of religion, and it's not an issue of constitutionality. It's an issue of humanism, and we can argue about immigration, we can argue about the economy, we can argue about government, but when it comes down to the individual, we are born with inalienable rights, and it doesn't matter if you're a Republican or a Democrat, or if you're a liberal or a conservative or whatever you happen to be, you have the same rights. And we've just affirmed that this week, so congratulations to you. And that's basically what I wanted to talk about today. That's basically it.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it doesn't take, just as a side note, hopefully it doesn't take as long for transgendered. Hopefully we've accelerated.
It won't. Now that social media is here. This is a different story.
Yeah.
And Macklemore, get on that.
What's your topic?
So, my topic is, what is the most extravagant thing that anyone's ever done for you? Extravagant plan, extravagance. Just what is something that's just blown your mind because you've been like, I can't believe someone would do this for me. In any way. It could be good, it could be bad, it could be whatever. Just extravagant. The reason I bring this up is because this weekend was my birthday, and my girlfriend came up with this ridiculous plan where on Saturday, the entire day, she had me like, it was essentially a scavenger hunt where I was going all around the Bay Area doing all types of
Is she with you?
stuff. She was not with me.
Gotcha.
She was not with me because, so there's a bit of a story that goes with this. I'll let you know. Because,
It's a rigmarole.
So my most extravagant thing was this weekend.
Yes.
Where when I first met her, the day I met her, we were discussing the movie Gone Girl and how much I loved that movie and enjoyed it a lot. And I enjoyed the idea of it. And there's clues being given. And like for people that haven't seen the movie, there's a girl that possibly is dead.
Wait, we should preface with this was a lot more positive than Gone Girl.
Not necessarily. So there's a girl that was possibly dead, and it looked like her husband killed her, and there was just a bunch of clues set around of like what happened to her, right? And like he was just trying to figure out, is she dead? Is she not dead? All that stuff, right? And he
Is
had
she
to, like,
gone, girl?
the girl was gone.
gone, girl.
We talked
She
about
gone.
we talked about that for a long time and how much I liked it and just intricacies and stuff. And she read the book. I didn't read the book because I don't read. But we discussed that. It was a big point in the seed of our relationship, right? So what happened was I woke up on Saturday and I walked into the living room of her place and shit was everywhere, just like it was in the movie, where it looked like there was like a crime scene going on and there was a clue.
Are you a heavy sleeper?
Huh?
Are you a heavy sleeper?
Yeah, I am. And also, it was just like, I mean, it wasn't like a fucking train came through
You
the
just
place.
wake up and there's blood all over the fucking ceiling. You're like, what the fuck happened?
Yeah,
you look down, her
no.
body's exploded.
Yeah, it wasn't like that. But it wasn't like that. But the girl was gone. That was a key
was
thing.
gone.
She was
Okay.
gone. And there was a key thing there where there was a clue, and I read it. It was like a riddle. And then it led me to go to different places. And then throughout the day, I was going to all these different places. All the places had some reason to be like a thing between the two of us. And like the first one, for example, was it sent me to the Mission District to go to the yoga studio that she frequents to do yoga. And
Which I would have paid to see.
yeah, so I went there and I picked her up and dropped
Did you
her off
do
there
yoga?
a bunch of times. So I get there. So I was given a partner for this, which is one of our mutual friends, the one of my best friend's girlfriends, who is how I met her. Blah blah blah. It's this whole thing, and she was kind of like my partner in crime through the day to make sure that like we were on track.
She
So there
was
was
the
some things,
Rizzoli to his aisles.
some things were timed,
Nailed it.
and there was
Nailed
all
it.
this stuff.
Yeah.
And I liken it a lot to season 4 of Game of Thrones with the Hound and Arya, where it's like the
Right.
most unlikely couple, but it was like, oh, this ended up working out pretty well. It was like that. Because I
Gotcha.
was just like, me and this girl, we're great friends. I've known her for like 8 years, but it's like, I don't know if there's ever a situation where I'm like, me and you, we're hanging out for 12 hours today. We're going to go all around. It's like, that wouldn't
It
happen.
took 12 hours to get all these clues.
Oh, I
done?
mean, it was a whole day experience.
Yeah.
It was interesting. It was very interesting. So I went and I did yoga, and it was horrifying, and it was frightening, and I felt very out of place. But it was also awesome for many reasons Nick has explained in the past.
Yep. There's a visual aesthetic to yoga that can't be denied. It won't be denied.
Yeah. It definitely made me wonder, like, do beautiful people do yoga, or does yoga make beautiful people?
I wonder that every single time. And then I go in and I go, nope, it's beautiful people do yoga. Because I look at my fat ass doing it and I don't look good at all. I'm sweating. My hair's like this. You see that right
what?
there?
Look at the
Where
camera.
I'm like this.
There you go.
You know what I mean? I'm smelling bad. I'm huffing and puffing. Then I look
Yeah.
over and just the angels that are in my yoga studio are just like, they're like standing by one fucking finger, like doing a headstand. And I'm like, hey, you guys, you know what? You were just born beautiful. You were born pretty. Don't look at me, my precious.
So it was really hard. It was much harder than I ever thought it would be, and I thought it was going to be pretty hard. So I'm like, all right. Now, this is about maybe 8 a.m.
Are you
I'm
in
just
jeans
like,
and a t-shirt?
No, it was like, so that's why my
girls
friend
there?
being there with me was like kind of good to kind of like, make sure I was prepped for whatever I was doing. And so we went from the yoga place to this, like, there was a clue about Starbucks, which I got right a fucking way. I was like, I know where we're going. So we go to Starbucks and I order a drink. and they give me a drink with another clue. And I'm like, I enjoy this. I like this a lot.
Starbucks playing along.
Yeah, and it was funny too because I got like a post brief later, and my girlfriend was telling me that she went to the Starbucks near us, and then she was just like, "Hey, yeah, so I'm doing this thing," and explained it, and I was just like, "You're going to be giving it to this guy," and the guy was like,
showed him a picture of him.
Yeah, showed me a picture of
Showed the guy
me.
a picture of Tim,
and the guy goes, "Oh, I've never seen that guy before." So that was pretty funny. So my friend was with me and was Snapchatting this whole thing, which you guys don't really know about Snapchat, but there's things called stories. So it's like your day, and it just like adds on top of each other. So at the end of the day, there was like 5 minutes of footage that you could just watch, like chronicling this whole thing, and then it disappeared in 24 hours because Snapchat's stupid. But so I got the Starbucks. I'm like, this is awesome. Dude, like, I can speed this story up with.
No, I don't like it. I like what you're doing.
Well, okay, I'll keep going then. So from there, we go from
I'm gonna listen. I have
Starbucks.
to pee, though.
Okay,
I apologize,
cool.
everyone.
Couldn't
Kevin,
make it to the break.
I couldn't.
So after Starbucks, we go and I might be skipping some stuff, but
Bring back my
but the
computer.
idea is after that, my next clue was it led me to CorgiCon, which
Oh,
was a
CorgiCon's a
corgi
town.
convention on Ocean Beach. I go there. There's 400 motherfucking corgis. And I enjoyed that. Including Roger the Rascal, which is my favorite corgi. Follow him on Instagram, and he was the best. Now, to be fair, Greg, I need to take a step back here and admit that the clue didn't make too much sense.
How the
it was-
CorgiCon?
Yeah, the clue was written in a way that I don't
Walk
remember
your
it
short
word
legs
for word,
down to the beach.
but it said something like it's-
399 other dogs to siege.
But no, so it did rhyme and stuff, but the rhyme led me to believe it said something like where the land meets blue or something like that. So I'm like, all right, it's the ocean. I get that. But I thought that it rhymed because it rhymed with zoo. So I was like, oh, I'm like,
The zoo is over there.
I'm thinking the zoo is right next to the beach. I'm like, all right. And the other thing that got me was like, it's your mascot or something like that. So I'm like, oh, fucking
Pigeons.
Cheetos.
Oh.
The chimpanzee.
Yes.
The orangutan. We're going to the beach. I mean, we're going to the zoo. Like, that makes sense. And then the
Is
girl...
the friend like, no?
The friend was, like, trying to play along and, like, trying to, like, let me fuck up and be like, I don't know.
What
Is it
else
the
do you
zoo?
think it
But
could be?
there was, like, certain timed things that we had to get to.
It'd
She's
be
like, it's
awesome
not
if-
the zoo, so just don't.
It'd be so awesome if you were trying to get into the chimpanzee cage or orangutan cage, and she's like, no, stop! I want to see how far you go.
So, yeah, so I was just like, nah. And then she's like, no, think about it. Think hard. Like, what's your mascot? I'm like, oh, we're going to Greg's. It's Portillo.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, Sunset's kind of near the ocean. She's like, no, we're not doing that. I'm like, no, it's Portillo. And like, I got upset about it. I'm like, it's either Portillo or fucking Cheetos. I will not admit anyone else being my mascot. And they're like, no, it's Raja. I'm like, all right, fine. I'll give it. I like that dog a lot.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's my mascot.
Okay.
But anyways, we go to CorgiCon. It's great. I meet my friends who own Raja.
At any point when they said mascot, did you think Kevin?
Never.
Because like if that seems
Kevin's
like
not my mascot.
I'm just saying, like Portillo's and
Cheerleader,
that's great.
maybe, but mascot, not so much. And then after that, we went to this really nice lunch spot I like called Nick's out in Pacifica. I got myself a crab sandwich, and I liked that.
And this is you and this girl still.
Me and the girl, well, then we went, and each place had different, my friends, like different variations of my friends. So I met my friend Curran over at the beach and his girlfriend Shari. Then we had lunch with other people. It's just like this whole thing, right? But then we get to Pacifica. So at this point, like this is a multiple city adventure, right? A lot of driving, a lot of things going on. I eat my meal, and then the hostess comes up and like with the check, whatever, gives the next clue. I'm like, all right. And I look at it and it says some shit about a lighthouse. I'm like, oh God. I instantly knew that she was talking about Forbes Island, which is the place that me and Nick went for the Pivot TV shoot that we did, which was at Pier 39. And I'm like, fuck my life. I need to go
the tourist trap.
This is so far. So we spent the next like 2 hours traveling from Pacifica over there through Pride.
I was gonna say this is Pride weekend.
So through Pride. So it was quite the adventure. It was once again like season 4 of Game of Thrones with Hound and Arya. We did this whole thing. We do that, and then after that, we ended up going downtown for something, and then we went to Starbucks again, and then she knows me well. Ended up going to the Kabuki Theater, which is where
you guys first met.
We first really met and watched 50 Shades of Grey together.
Yeah.
Then there was a final clue about where we're eating, and she was like, "Hey, you're finally gonna find me. It's all good, whatever. We're all gonna eat." And the clue said something about knives, and I'm like, oh, we're going back to her house because of the knives, as everybody knows from the Instagram post. I'm like, this is happening. And then my friend's like, no, that's not what's happening. I'm like, what? And so then I realized Benihana is like next door.
Oh, sure.
And I'm like, at one point I mentioned I really like Benihana.
Yeah.
She latched onto that shit. I'm like, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So we go to Benihana, and then like a bunch of people were there. I was like, oh, surprise. I'm like, yeah, this is awesome. And then after that, we went out to 90s Hip Hop Club, and then randomly Nick Scarpino was there. Didn't expect you to be there.
She wanted a big group.
But I enjoyed that.
It was fun.
Yeah.
It was real fun.
So that
real fun.
is the long and short of that day.
Wow.
I'm sure I'm missing stuff. I'm sure she's listening, so
thanks for inviting
us.
us.
I missed things out. Everyone should have invited Greg and Colin.
Greg and Colin wouldn't have come out anyway. Colin would have
for your
declined.
birthday, I would have done it.
You would have loved this club, by the way.
I make exceptions
because we walked in and it was a Whitney Houston video was playing.
Yeah.
Then it went from Whitney Houston to Vanilla Ice. Then from Vanilla Ice to like I was like too short or something like that. It doesn't matter. It was
2 Chainz.
Yeah, it was good.
It was awesome. It was really fun. It was a really fun club.
But yeah, so that was definitely the most extravagant thing anyone's ever done for me. Now, the thing here is, this sounds like a Tim Gettys thing. I do that shit. I love putting on these big productions. But I never once in my life thought, someone's going to do this for me. Someone's going to do anything like this. So I was like, holy shit. This is insane.
Yeah.
She went all out. She wrote all these clues, made sure I had to, get everybody like in line and stuff. And it was hard too. Like Kevin couldn't be a part of it because he was out doing Kevin stuff. Meaning. And his girlfriend.
He was at Kevin Con.
Kevin Con.
This is one attendee, but it was awesome. It was a great convention.
But yeah, so it's like, it was very, very, very impressive to see her pull all this together and do all this crazy shit. And like, I'm the type of person that would appreciate that, and I appreciated the shit out of it. And like, for the last couple of days, I've just been thinking like, good Lord, that happened. That really happened. She really went through with doing this insane thing. So thank you. What are your guys' most
I have no fucking
things?
idea. That's like no one's ever done a fucking cross city meet and greet thingamajig.
No one likes me that much.
I mean, for me, I think the amount of effort my brother put into my bachelor party was pretty freaking tremendous. And like, just Matt's the kind of guy that, like, when he's taking care of like something, he's taking care of it, right? And when it came to that bachelor party, he knocked it out of the park. He got all the invites together, got all the rooms together, made sure we had dinner reservations, made sure the cabana was booked. I didn't have to worry about anything. It was literally like being taken care of for 3 days, and then just having someone throw a tremendous amount of alcohol down your throat. So it was awesome. I will give a shout out to my wife though. We've never done like a big push like that, but the small things she does, I think, are really, really, really important to me sometimes. The things that she does without me asking, like sometimes I'll, like when I come back from convention, she'll just be like, hey, I booked you a massage appointment. Oh. And I'm like, oh, you don't have to do that. She's like, it's already done. I already paid for it. Don't worry about it. So it's done. And so like after that really hard, like she realizes how hard I've worked and how much my knees hurt or whatever, and I'll go and I'll just get pampered for like an hour and a half on her. Because she also knows how big of a hang up I have when I don't spend money on fun stuff for myself ever. Like if I desperately needed a back massage because I had a muscle that just like wasn't working anymore, I'd be like, it'll work itself out. I just won't put the $100 toward it. And so she does that stuff for me, and I think that's really, really cool. Which makes me think that maybe I should start reciprocating at some point.
Overrated.
No? Overrated?
Overrated.
Yeah. I'm really bad about that, man. Like I get on the grind of like work with this notion in the back of my head that like eventually we'll catch up and get so far ahead that I'll make up all the time that I miss with her, and it just doesn't happen, man. You got to really just do it. Like if you have a significant other, just do something nice for them. Like, I don't know, if it's their birthday, buy them the thing they want, even if you don't think it's a good idea, you kind of just do it. Fuck, I don't know. Because eventually you're just going to get like 4 years into your relationship, or like in 9 years like mine, and realize that you just haven't done enough of that. And it's not, I'll start. I probably won't. Actually, I'm taking my wife away this weekend.
You take her away a lot.
But she initiates it. Oh. That's the thing. She's like, it's more her taking us away than it is me going, hey, I'm going to surprise you with a weekend away. Sure. Which I know she wants, and I don't know why I don't do it. But then you look at our calendar, and it's like every week from here to like September, we got something that I'm like, and I feel like an asshole because when I get to the weekends, and I'm just like, I just want to sit,
play
man.
Batman.
Actually, not even play Batman. Sometimes I caught myself the other day just laying on my couch staring at the ceiling, and it was so amazing. My wife's like, she's kind of looking at me for like a good, I don't even know how long I was doing it. She's like, you do know you've been staring at a white wall for the last like 10 minutes. And I'm like, I didn't know how long it was, but it's glorious.
It's my alternative to sleep.
Well, no, but think about all of the things we have done as a group together in the last like few weeks, and we're heading into Comic-Con next week. We've got Screw Attack after that. Just the sheer amount of volume of information and like experience that we take in on a weekly basis. I think sometimes it can be overwhelming. Where like I just need to sit and like let it all just kind of sink in and then bleed out. And like refill the tank, like or empty the tank out, so that we can get those new experiences in. Much the same that Colin, we were talking about that on a prior episode, where it's just sometimes it's a lot to deal with, and it takes a lot of energy, and so sometimes you want to just kind of keep a little bit of that for yourself, but you have to do that with a significant other. You have to kind of find that extra energy somewhere and put it in there. Otherwise, she's gonna be like, Kevin, don't raise your eyebrows at me when I say put it in there. I don't like the connotation. Kevin, stop ruining the shit. I'm not talking about that hog you got between your thighs. Look at him. It's like the pants had to be let out a little bit.
The Colin was right shirt looks good on him. I'll tell you what.
It does. It looks good. I don't know. So those are my two things. I think my bachelor party was the thing that stands out because my brother did an amazing job with that. Everyone had a great time. He had T-shirts made.
Yeah.
For Christ's sake. I showed up. I was like, "There's T-shirts here that says Nick's bachelor party." That's awesome. And I was actually able to take that then. And when I threw a bachelor party, I took all those things and threw it toward it, and everyone appreciated it. It was really fun.
And you pretended like it was all your idea.
I did. I took 100% of the credit for it. Even though half the people at that bachelor party were at my bachelor party.
It was really just part two.
It really was.
It was like this. It was the Empire Strikes Back of bachelor parties.
It wasn't the Empire Strikes Back. It was like the Hot Shots Part 2, where like it was the exact same movie, but just kind of better and bigger.
That's actually exactly very fucking accurate. Yeah. Like, oh my god.
It wasn't. Yeah, there was no consistent in the story plot. It was just the exact same movie. Yeah.
All right. You got anything, Colin?
Not on that level, no.
I for real don't either. Like, I just don't have anything. I'm sure I'm forgetting something I'll get yelled at about later, but no, I don't.
I feel like people that would do things like that for me know better. Like if they were like, "We're gonna do a scavenger hunt," I'd be like, "No, I don't think so."
But I feel like that's why this for me
got me a really cool Superboy cake a few years ago.
I mean, that's awesome. I think for me, like that's why it's extra awesome. Is there's something to be said about people that do huge productions and huge things for people.
It's very nice.
That don't want it though. Like that's like it's like you were misreading. Like that's not a nice gesture at that point. You're just kind of like stroking your own ego with that. It's like,
it's an interesting
look at this big thing I'm doing for you. Like you should love me for this. And it's like, well, if you're not catering it to the person and what their needs and wants are, you're kind of just being a dick, really.
Yeah.
And then also, getting mad about them
because there's a thin line between knowing your significant other and then like kind of missing the mark a little bit, right? And you're like, well, like you're never gonna look a gift horse in the mouth. And we know what that means now. Thanks to Colin. But yeah, there is like, I know what my wife wants for her birthday and for our anniversary. I know what experiences she wants. And actually the big thing for her is she wants to be taken on vacation. So we planned a vacation finally, and that's her big push. But like, if I were to surprise her with something that I knew was out of her, like, my wife, she's a very particular person. She likes what she likes. She's actually kind of like the female Colin. She likes what she likes and everything else doesn't exist to her. And so, like, if I'm trying to introduce something to her, that's almost insensitive on my part because I'm like, well, I know you. You're a 36-year-old person at this point. You know what you like. I'm not going to screw with that.
Yeah, and that's why to me this was so special because she knows me. She knows I would appreciate this, and then she fucking went through with it, which is like, holy shit, that's a huge undertaking. So it's definitely much appreciated. But it's like, yeah, I mean, like I can imagine for you, it's different things.
Yeah, I wouldn't want. I mean, the only thing that came to mind that was similar, but I don't think on scope was when we went to Louisville actually, because that was fun in the sense that was all basically set up. The extraordinary thing about that was Eric Castro is our good friend who does Follow the Leader with us. He knows everyone in the fucking bar industry. He knew guys in Louisville, which is like, ground zero for fucking bourbon. And we went there, and for 3 days, his friend, who we have never met before and have never talked to since, rented a van and drove 12 of us around the entire state to go to like all of these distilleries, half of which do not let people actually visit. So they were like totally just like favors that he called in or whatever. And that was probably the most extra. And then at night, we would go to like these nice dinners every night. Silver Dollar was probably the best place we went in Louisville, which is like a famous bourbon bar. So that was probably the closest I got. And I was very thankful for that. It was very overwhelming for me because the reason I wanted to do that Louisville trip to begin with was because I never acknowledge my birthday. In fact, I tried to go through my birthday without even saying anything, so no one even knows, because I was just like, it's just, you know, in a way, it's embarrassing.
Happy birthday, by the way.
Oh, thank you. It's in October. It's like one of those things where I want, like, intentionally for my 30th birthday, I'm like, I'm going to do something and actually compile my friends together if I can. And actually, for once, the first time literally since I turned 21, do something, you know?
Right.
And we did, and we had a great time. And it was all basically set up by other people, which I thought was like really, really nice. Because I try to make it a habit of not asking anything of anyone. Because I don't want to burden people. It's a very libertarian kind of mantra, but it's just like, I can just handle it myself. You know, like I don't like that. So it was weird to rely on other people, and that they, you know, it's not weird that they came through because they're reliable. But so that's about as close as I could possibly get. And that was probably one of the greatest vacations I'd ever taken, actually, because we were just fucking wasted the entire time. It was great.
We really weren't.
Yeah, we were. We just weren't fucking belligerent. We drank all day for 3 days.
But we said every time we came home, we're not as drunk as we thought we'd be.
And then
we'd sit around a little bit buzzed.
And then we'd sit around the fire.
I've heard you say that so many times.
Yeah, I drink a lot, Nick.
Right
I have a
before
problem.
you black
Thanks for
out.
trying to stop me.
I'm not as drunk as I think I
Get
am.
Daddy's juice.
Yeah, and then we would sit. That was just a really nice.
diving
That was
into
just
you.
a nice vacation. That was we had good people there, and people from all over the place, and it was a good time. So that's about as close as I get. But nothing ever. I don't know if I would ever let someone execute something that extravagant for me.
I would feel
Order
I would feel
66.
bad because I would say, look, I'm a very simple guy. Like every year, my wife's like, "What do you want to do for your birthday?" Because she knows she knows to ask me, and the answer is always the same. I'm like, nothing. I just want to spend the weekend with you, relaxing. That is it. I don't want to spend any money. I don't want you to have to buy me anything. I don't want the pressure of like the acceptance of the gift, because there's pressure there
so
too.
much.
And my wife at this point.
Oh, thank you.
Well, exactly.
this thing.
Like at this point, my wife knows exactly what I want, and she knows that that's not something that like there are no presents out there that I necessarily want her to spend money on. Like I don't want her to spend her hard-earned money on me. For Christ's sake, it's our money at this point. When you get married, it's like, who are you kidding? It's all one pot of money that you guys share, right? So like, I'm basically buying myself a present at this point. Is how I look at it, and I'm like, I don't want you to have to do that. Or sometimes she'll like work extra to have to get me something, and I'm like, no, just relax and spend time with me. So like, I would have so much anxiety if I knew someone was planning that for me. I'd be like, shit, I don't think I could do this. How about you just take me to a movie? Get me a big DC, maybe some Junior Mints, maybe like some Kit Kats, some hella into the white chocolate Kit Kats right now. Have you guys had these?
Are they selling these on the streets of America?
Oh my God, they're so good.
Okay.
Yeah, they're so good.
Okay.
They're so good.
Scott Lowe, his girlfriend Cindy, planned our trip to Japan. So there you go. That's my most extravagant thing. And that was just because we
Thank you, Cindy.
tagging along on their vacation to Japan with Shuhei and Warren Price and Christine and Panda Musk.
No big deal.
No
Just
big deal.
Hung out with Shuhei.
Yeah, that's normal for me.
You're such a baller.
No big
Hey,
deal.
were you pissed off when they made the show Ballers that your episode hasn't aired yet?
I was happy because The Rock's in it.
Yeah.
I'm happy he's getting work,
That's good.
regular work.
Oh, so you turned it down so he could get it?
Exactly. I'm a big fan of Dwayne Johnson.
Okay. You could have actually done that role as an ex-football player.
No, you couldn't.
Ex-linebacker.
I'm too young.
That's true. No.
If I look, I mean,
No,
like
you
you figure
could be-
when Dick Butkus showed up on My Two Dads, he had to be 38, 42. Like
Dick Butt Kiss.
yeah, one of the best Chicago Bears of all time. Don't start talking shit. You'll get shot.
Don't need to talk any shit about that.
Thank
bro.
you. I mean,
Shit talks itself.
Dick Butkus could come in this room right now and beat the living fuck out of you to this
Hey,
day.
there's people with,
I mean, like
with much less effective names that could do that.
don't fuck with Dick.
I won't fuck with the dick. That's not my favorite thing to fuck with.
I'm not gonna do anything with a dick. I'm not gonna handle the dick. I'm not gonna manhandle the dick.
He's not liking this. He's watching this right now and he's not thrilled with what he's saying.
Would it blow you the fuck away if Dick Butkus was like, dude, I'm a huge fan of your show?
Yeah, of course.
What if the dick was good? Would you handle it then?
I mean, if the dick was good, I might consider taking it out. You know, no, Kevin's waving me off on this one. Kevin's saying wrap it
My
up.
topic comes from one of my favorite websites of all time, twitter.com/no-taxation/status 615-373-255546624.
I enjoy that a lot.
Perhaps
Greg.
we could
Thank
just
you.
link this image in the episode.
I'm editing it, so I'm sure that'll happen.
Okay, great.
Kevin's making note of it, I'm sure. So Colin Moriarty was on the Twitter.
I'm familiar
He
with him.
asked me if I saw this image. I showed it to you earlier.
Yes.
It's every superhero movie now to 2019.
Thank you.
Everything that's coming up. I will read through them real quickly and then ask the question, Colin asked.
In
That I said
chronological
save
order.
for this. Chronological order. Ant-Man in July. Fantastic Four August. Deadpool February. Batman v Superman March. Civil War Captain America May. X-Men Apocalypse, May 2016. Doctor Strange, July 2016. Suicide Squad, August 2016. Gambit, October 2016. Wolverine 3, March 2017. Guardians of the Galaxy 2, May 2017. Wonder Woman, June 2017. Spider-Man, July 2017. Fantastic Four 2, July 2017. Thor, Ragnarok Odyssey, November 2017. Justice League, November 2017. March 2018, that's The Flash. Avengers Infinity War Part 1, May 2018. Black Panther, July 2018. Aquaman, July 2018. Captain Marvel, November 2018. April 2019 brings us the Flash movie. Avengers Infinity War Part 2.
Second Flash movie?
No, I didn't say second Flash.
That's the Flash right there on March 18th. So is this a Flash 2? Or is that Shazam? What is that?
That's the wrong logo if that's your Sam. It's not clickable. Oh. We'll look into it.
We're going to look into that.
Avengers Infinity War Part 2, May 2019. Justice League 2, June 2019. Inhumans, July 2019.
It can't be Shazam because that's Captain Marvel right there.
All right, don't worry about
social
it. Chief.
media pickup on that one.
300.
Not bad.
Wow.
Not bad.
It's because you insulted it. So the question is, Colin tweeted, "No, the bottom won't fall out. Definitely not lol." Thanks to all who shared this image with me.
Thanks for the capital LOL, just like a giant wall.
The question is,
which
which one of these is going to be the first movie to bomb? Now let's figure out what April 2019 is. April 2019.
See,
what's the definition of bomb?
None of them will bomb.
None of them will bomb.
None of them will
It's
bomb.
Shazam.
Is it Shazam?
Well, that's on that person because that's not the Shazam logo. That's a Flash logo. They should fucking learn
Shazam's
what the
just
fuck
one.
they're doing. It's a lightning bolt.
One lightning bolt.
Right,
Yeah,
right,
not the multiples.
What is your definition of bomb?
Bomb to me means that it does not make its money back.
Okay.
And that
There are
let me
multiple movies
preface
on that list that will not make their
it
money
does
back.
not make a profit, which I think all of these will. I think all of these will make a defined profit, and not in the United States. Some of these might not do well in the United States, but they will do well in the foreign markets because they convert so well easily. They translate so well over in foreign markets. It's ridiculous. And also half of these are probably being shot in China right now, so they're probably getting huge stipends for that.
Yeah,
rather.
I asked that because my definition of bottom falling out is not necessarily a financial fatigue, because who really gives a shit if the studios make money or not. The question is, will viewers like them, and will viewers go to see them? And there are multiple movies on this list that people are not going to care about.
All right, let's go piece by piece then. Ant-Man.
Ant-Man's apparently getting good reviews,
People
but
are
I
gonna
think
go see it and
because
like
it's
it.
the tip of the spear.
Of what?
Of the well, not only this,
The
but
tip of the end
of the movement to of pre-announcing. This is the first Marvel movie that was like pre-announced a long time ago that's coming out. Correct?
No.
When they did that
For
DC
Wave 2 or 3, yes.
That's
But
what
I
I'm
mean,
saying, for
Marvel.
DC
But Marvel announced Wave 1 a long time ago, Colin. That had a whole bunch of movies going out.
But I'm saying for that DC Marvel when they were going back and forth about a year ago or so, and that's when they got all the way down here to the Inhumans, and then I guess is that DC?
Yeah, that's Shazam. Yeah.
So that's more what I'm talking about. This is when the conversation really began about comic book movies.
Okay.
Being like Westerns, for instance.
Yeah, it was like what? It was like 2 Comic-Cons ago?
Yeah, I mean, this shit's
When
all
they were
stupid
like,
anyway.
check this out. And then in 2019, and then in 2034, and then 2078. You're like, what the fuck?
Ant-Man's probably going to be pretty good. I don't think it's going to do great, but we'll see. We'll see what happens with Ant-Man. I don't think that's one of the ones that's going to do. That's going to be
taking it piece by piece. Ant-Man, everyone's going to go see because they're all going to wonder.
It's going to do really
Everyone's
well.
going to wonder if it's good or not. That's going to be that is the tip of the spear. You're right. Fantastic Four might not do that well.
That's the one that I'm identifying as the first one that doesn't do well.
That might be the first one that people are like, it's good, it's going to make money, but it might not be the blowout success that they're hoping for.
Yeah,
And
but
actually,
also, I mean, it's
hoping
Fox,
it's going to be a blowout.
so it's like
success.
I don't even think that's in the same playing field as a lot of these other ones. Like Fantastic Four, it's a reboot from
of a series that
the
didn't-
other guys. You know,
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
Marvel. It's not.
Well, no, but
DC.
Fox has.
They have X-Men.
They have
Good
X-Men.
for them. Cool.
But Days of
it's
Future
not
Past was
X-Men,
good.
though.
and
But
it
it's
was
not
cool.
X-Men though. It's something else. Like,
But
Fox really is X-Men. Like all the other stuff they've had is like you don't even count it. It's not really part of the universe. This is the first time that they're building the universe that's not X-Men.
See,
right?
but
that's
this is the hard thing for the next 3 of these, or the next 5 of these I'm looking at, or 6 of them, I really want to see. So for me,
6?
I'm fascinated by Ant-Man. I actually really, really like Miles Teller, and I like the Fantastic.
I like Michael B. Jordan too.
I like Michael B. Jordan. I like.
It's based more on the Ultimate
Kate
Fantastic
Mara.
Four, which I prefer.
I think it looks cool. I'm gonna go see that. Deadpool isn't that one of the first R-rated? Yeah, you gotta see that.
That's gonna be fucking
because it's gonna
awesome.
be fucking gory and bloody. Everyone wants to ride the Superman Batman train just to see where that one takes us.
A lifelong dream come true. Batman and Superman on the same screen.
Captain America: Civil War is a given.
Of course.
I mean, that is gonna be the biggest Marvel movie.
In the
since Avengers.
Yeah, it's going to be huge. X-Men Apocalypse, I gotta see.
They have so much goodwill coming off the last X-Men film. That's going to be fine.
They do. What's the next one?
Doctor Strange. That's the one. That's the first. I mean, I think Fantastic Four is going to underperform, but I think Doctor Strange, the first like Marvel movie. You're talking about the cinematic universe, where it's going to be like what?
But again, I think that's dependent on Ant-Man.
Well,
and
also
things like
it's
that.
dependent on.
But I think Ant-Man's
don't
gonna
we
be fine.
need? Oh, I guess Doctor Strange isn't built into.
Yeah, I mean,
let's
back up a little bit. We're going too far. First of all, to Tim's point with the Fantastic Four coming from Fox and not being integrated, it doesn't matter. That's not the point of this. Like the point is that there's no dearth of superhero movies. They all exist in the same world, the Earth. So like that, like they're all coming out in movie theaters. It's not about the way they interact with each other. In my mind, it's about how they interact with each other on the market. Well, in other words, it's not about their universes.
But it is though, because the public's interest is in the universes. Like the public thinks of Marvel movies as being quality. Whereas
I think you guys, I firmly believe this, that I think you guys overestimate significantly people's interest in the universes as opposed to the individual characters and the movies and the events of going to see these movies. We are in a bubble where, because what you're basically suggesting is that there's 100 million people in the United States that give a fuck about the Avengers.
But see, I'm basing this off mainly of the girlfriends of my friends, and even my friends barely care. It's like, oh, I watched the 90s Marvel cartoons. Like that's their extent of comic knowledge, right? And like
the extent of my
all of their girlfriends are excited about the and I'm saying their girlfriends because these people specifically are not into any of this stuff.
Yeah.
But they are now entrenched in the Disney Marvel movies, like specifically because it's Disney and because there is this quality and because it is this thing where it's everything adds on top of each other and there's like all that stuff. They're into that, They don't give a fuck about X-Men or.
I'll tell you, the other day I went and saw Jurassic Park in IMAX 3D, as we all know. I've regaled everyone with that story in my private life. Jurassic World, excuse me. They show extended previews for things in IMAX, which I didn't realize. I assume that's just some sort of way to get people to pay the exorbitant price for the ticket. The only reason I went was because it was the only time that I could actually go. But they showed the first 5 minutes of Ant-Man, and I was like, damn it. It's actually really entertaining.
They got you.
They got me. Right. So I have to go see that. But Colin, another thing to consider is this. Moviegoers don't necessarily think in terms of like how many movies they're consuming, right? So if you look at the schedule, it would be different if they were all coming out within like 2 weeks of each other or even on the same weekend. But these are so well spaced out. Like the two studios have somehow managed to not step on each other's coattails. 3 studios rather. That I think. I mean, look at once a month. Yeah, everyone's gonna go see them. If you saw Ant-Man, you're gonna go see Fantastic Four.
Everyone is not gonna go see all these movies. I think that people that think that by 2019 there's not gonna be a significant bottoming out of this fucking market is deluding themselves.
By 2019, probably, but not in the next 2 years.
Like it's just this is what I wrote. I did a longer thing, a conversation with people, I think, on our Facebook group, where I was like, first of all, I hope they all do well. I know a lot of people care about a lot of these movies, and I think it's great. I'm just saying that comic book movies are not immune to the negative market force of oversaturation. Nothing is immune to it. I don't give a fuck what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
but you're also talking about a marketplace where like the Transformer movies still blow box offices away, and these are movies that literally
suck.
If you go see them,
they
don't make any sense.
I mean, that's coming
and
from
they're also not good.
A huge Transformers.
They're terrible, but they're making it. Aren't they going to make another one?
And that's why
they're making a universe of them.
Yeah, I mean, like, dude, they're so like people don't. It sucks, but it is one of those things where it's like the. I guess we're not really talking about the quality. You are talking about saturation, so that is a good. It is a valid point, but I just don't think people care. I think that people are like, oh, what am I going to do this weekend? Go to a movie. What's out? Fantastic Four. Dope. What's Fantastic Four? Who cares? It's a comic book movie. Let's go see it. Like. I think the thing I hear from a lot of people is that no one's critical of these movies. Like, I personally am suffering from comic book movie fatigue.
Like, I'm over it. Avengers 2, it's like, I watched it. I can't believe I watched that movie for as good as it is and was just like, all right.
That was fun.
But I think even a few people brought this up to me because I don't know enough about Avengers 2. Where they were saying like Avengers 2 made a lot of money, but it actually underperformed like the.
It didn't do what Avengers did.
So there you go. Like it's already happening in small, mild ways where it's like. Well, the second one didn't do as good as the first one. Empire did way better than Star Wars. Jedi did better than Empire. You know?
I mean, traditionally the sequels do better, but also you have to remember it wasn't a direct sequel to Avengers. They already had the sequel, which was the second Captain America movie, which did very, very well.
This is like total nonsense.
It's not a matter of nonsensical. It is, but you're also comparing something that was one of the highest. Actually, it was the highest grossing opening weekend box office movie up until what just recently came out and dethroned it. Jurassic World just came out and dethroned it.
Right, but that needs to be adjusted for inflation as well.
Well,
so I'm curious about how like Gone with the Wind is still the most profitable movie of all time.
They always say that, and you always have to, of course, take into account the fact that there's more 3D screens or more IMAX screens or whatever. I don't know, but it doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is, you're comparing it to the sort of pinnacle of what I mean. Avengers blew it out. That was like 8 movies in the making to get to Avengers.
Yeah, there won't be another Avengers.
There won't be another one of those. So, but you're also taking out you have to also take into mind that it not doing well is still it making hundreds of millions of dollars.
And that's why I wanted to identify like what do we mean by like bottoming out? Is it an economic bottoming out, which would be affected by the bottoming out of interest? Because I think a lot of these movies will be profitable. A lot of these movies need to go overseas, especially places like you said, like China and Western Europe, to be profitable. Which
it's fine. That's every movie though.
No, I know, but that shows that even Hollywood, and that's why Hollywood has to bet on big things like this because they can't there's no room for risk anymore. But back to what I was trying to say was that I think Ant-Man is the tip of the spear of this whole movement because this is when people started really talking about the shit was with Ant-Man and Ant-Man. Well, with this whole movement of all of these movies being announced, and Ant-Man was the first one. So Fantastic Four, I don't think is going to do well.
Hold on, stop.
Yeah.
You're the guy who asked you're the one saying the bottom will fall. For you, what's the bottom falling out?
So for me, the bottom fall. Well, it's gonna bottom out first with interest and then with money. Okay. So I think by the end of this, a lot of these movies are gonna lose money.
Well, Inhumans. I'm a comic book fan. I don't give a shit about Inhumans. Captain Marvel, I don't give a shit about. Shazam. Rock's in it, so that's cool. Black Panther. I'm a DC guy. I don't care about Black Panther. I'm super excited about Aquaman, which means that for every fucking nerd DC kid, I'm a nerdy DC kid. So if I'm super excited about Aquaman, somebody's excited about Black Panther.
I guess.
Thor. Stop making Thor standalone movies. They've never been good. Justice League can't wait for. Wonder Woman I'm excited for, but I understand that.
Bomb, I think.
I don't think it's gonna. So what? A definition of bomb?
Wonder Woman's not gonna make its money back.
It'll totally make its money back.
It will.
I think that
it's the first time we've seen a live action Wonder Woman movie, and it'll make its money.
I don't understand this whole maybe it's just my own because I know I'm the villain in this particular argument. A lot of our users are always mad at
being villain. It's going to happen, but you have to also remember that for everyone that's a fan of comic books, they're looking at this salivating. They're probably thinking, dude, this is awesome. The next 3 years of my life.
I know. Can you imagine goddamn, when I was a kid with all my Wizard magazine posters on the wall? Fucking shit.
I don't know. I feel
jacking off to that instead of porn. No, I'd be jacking off to that.
Fans of what is that? This is what I'm saying. Comic books don't sell. So what are?
But characters sell. Though.
Exactly. But that's a weird argument. And this is I'm not able to really get any of my arguments out in this conversation. Comic books don't sell. So if you're a comic book fan of this, that's great. There's a few 100,000 hardcore comic fans, basically. In the United States that are buying comics on a daily or weekly basis, right? Well, it can't possibly be more than that because I've seen the sales of even huge comic books that are like 50,000 a week.
Yeah.
Right? So, is that accurate? You know these numbers.
Comics are profitable, but they're not like fucking over the moon money.
Okay, so they're not aiming at that, right? They're not necessarily aiming at those people because they're not a profitable sect. If you're going after comic book fans, you're not going to make any money. So what they're trying to do is, and maybe a few 100,000 is a way low number, but let's say there's a few million people in the United States that consider themselves hardcore comic fans,
sure,
right? And the numbers of comics being sold, I think it was Thor when they made the female Thor, they released those numbers, and I think it was like 70,000 one week and 50,000 the next week. So it was like, okay, that's respectable. I'm sure they made a lot of money. These are made for the wider audience, which is why I question a lot of the choices they're making.
Sure.
Right? Ant-Man's a weird choice. I think that's a totally bizarre choice. But if the movie's good, that's great. Fantastic Four, we've seen them before. Deadpool, I think, is going to be actually really huge because of the nature of who Deadpool is and the fact that it's rated R. Batman vs Superman, I'm convinced it's going to be awful, but I'm going to go see it.
It's going to make so much money.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to go see it. I think the movie's going to be absolutely terrible, but I like Batman a lot. I'm rooting for it to be good because I know it means a lot to people like Greg who want a good Superman movie. Civil War is going to be huge, no doubt about it. X-Men's going to be huge. Doctor Strange is the one I look at where
that might be the one for me where it's where people start to go, I'm just not going to do this.
Right.
But you have to also understand though that those movies are just to keep market share, right? A lot of these, like the secondary characters, are just to have something to keep reminding the public that the next big thing's coming,
and to build a sidekick for the next movie. And that's the reason. So right now, I think we all agree that Doctor Strange is the one that we're looking at here, where we're like, but it's like a couple years back we'd be saying that about Ant-Man.
Yeah,
but it's like now Ant-Man we're looking at like, this is different, but it couldn't be good. couple years ago, Guardians of the Galaxy was the Inhumans.
That's 100%
where we're like,
correct.
who the fuck cares? But it's like now, I can't wait for Guardians 2.
Yeah.
You know?
I really want, and that's actually probably one of the ones I'm looking most forward to, just because they did something different with that. It was more like, it was that ensemble cast that was a lot different than you thought it was going to be. I don't know if I'll see I'm sure I'll see the Inhumans. I'm sure I'll see all of these at some point. That's a shit thing. It's like, they got me already. I'm fascinated one way or the other. I know some of them are going to be good, and I'm going to be fascinated to see if they're as good as I want them to be. And I know some of them are going to be bad, and I want to see how bad they're going to be.
But that's the thing, like Thor, right?
Like the Thors. I love seeing the Thors. They're terrible. They're not great.
They're bad. I've never seen a Thor in theaters. I've always seen them later, and
They're
I've always
huge
been like, I
spectacle
didn't
films.
need to watch that.
I see them. I wait for that one spot, that one time, like scene where Chris Hemsworth takes his shirt off, and I go,
the one scene.
There's usually only one. And, so far in the standalone Thor movies, there's been 2 scenes specifically where he walks out with no shirt completely. I'm not talking like the arms. I'm talking he walks out and you're like, there are gaps in your waistline because your muscles protrude so much. There are like you could stuff fucking cones right in the thrust bucket thing that he's got. You know what I mean?
The thrust bucket.
Yeah, the little part of the flying V that he's got down there. You could put like soda cans, just put them in there, and he wouldn't even feel them because there's so much space between his abs and his waistline. It's amazing. It's amazing, this man. So I watched that scene, and then I'm like, cool, let's watch the rest of this. Plus, I do think he has really good chemistry with Natalie Portman, but the movies have just been filler. They're just filler, really.
The flaw I have with your argument, Colin, is when you talk about that comics don't sell, so obviously that's not who they're going to.
Well,
let me finish.
That was a direct relationship to what I said, which I said comic book fans are looking at this saying, "Oh, they're salivating."
Right.
I misspoke. What I meant is fans of nerd culture in general.
That's that's the argument. Is like, you're a Batman fan, you don't read comics. How many fucking Wonder Woman fans do I know? Do I see wearing Wonder Woman necklaces, shirts, whatever, that I know aren't reading the new 52 Wonder Woman? So I mean, if you go like that, then I mean, you're finding all these different people. Like again, Doctor Strange is, I think we all agree, a weak one, but Suicide Squad's Joker, Gambit's X-Men, Wolverine. I mean, Guardians has already proven itself. Wonder Woman's Wonder Woman. Spider-Man. Fantastic Four 2. If Fantastic Four 1 doesn't do well, then maybe they even take that off. Thor's Thor. Justice League's everybody you ever wanted to see ever. Flash fans. Avengers are back here with the first part of the Infinity War, so we'll finally get to see Thanos, this thing they've been building to. Black Panther, again, is where I think now that we're back to there being a weak link. Aquaman, they've hopefully proven the case for Aquaman and Justice League, and on top of that, Batman v Superman. There's an awesome chance that Aquaman or Wonder Woman or both show up and do the Hulk moment in Batman v Superman where they fucking steal the show, and you're like, holy fuck, I'd love to see a whole movie about them. Well, good news, it's coming in 2 years or a year or whatever. Captain Marvel, like I said, yeah, we'll see what the hell happens with that. Shazam, again, it's The Rock. We'll see what happens as Black Adam in that one, right? Then back to Avengers to complete the fact with Thanos. Justice League 2 to see whatever we did here. To also, hopefully, you now care about Aquaman, you care about Wonder Woman, and then Humans, yeah. So, I mean, the ones that, like, I find that there's no touchstone, there's, like, all this thing. And, again, this is me mainly as the DC fan, right? As Doctor Strange, Inhumans, Shazam, maybe Captain Marvel, Black Panther. Like, there's just... And Aquaman will be for a lot of people. There aren't Aquaman fans. There are a few or whatever, but there aren't... Like that. If we're talking about Aquaman fans, you are a DC comics book fan. You read Jeff Johns' New 52 run. So then it becomes that hopefully Justice League or Batman v Superman sold you that Jason Momoa is this awesome dude. You want to see him do his thing.
I want to be clear that, ideally all of these movies would do great because I know that people are excited about them. My observation is not one of taste, because if it was about taste, half these movies are going to be garbage, and we all know that. So it's not necessarily a matter of taste, right? I can look at half this and be like, I would bet many of these movies are going to be bad. Right? It's not necessarily about that. I want the movies to be great, and I want them to make lots of money, and people keep making them. What I think people ignore with my particular argument is that there comes a saturation point with all things, everything, And people are arguing, well, DC is not the same as Marvel or this studio or that studio. It doesn't matter. It's not going to matter to the mom that has a 9-year-old kid that wants to go see these movies, and after going to see 3 of them, and is like, and then maybe they don't enjoy 2 of them, and then suddenly they bottom out and they drop out, and that kind of thing happens. The Comic-Con kind of overwhelming success of these things over the last few years with comic conventions and stuff like that. What I've always been inspired by, and as a nerd and a different kind of cut from a different kind of cloth, is seeing so many people at these conventions that do not read comics and have no affinity to comics and have no affinity to comic book characters. And they are there because they enjoy this TV show. They like to dress up as this character or that character. It's not to say the comic fans are out there. I don't mean to disparage comic book readers by saying there's only a few million of you in the United States that buy comics, because that is just the numbers, right? But it is to say that I don't quite understand why everyone gets so excited about anything that has a superhero in it. And like maybe we need to be a little more discerning about the movies that like we want to see made and we don't want to see made. And that is the frustrating point for me. When you see something like the Nolan trilogy come out and it's a fucking masterpiece to the point where the second movie is considered one of the best movies made that decade. I was talking to my girlfriend about this. I was like, could you imagine a Batman movie being considered one of the great movies of the 2000s, and it is, that the villain was nominated for an Academy Award. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, but that is a significant step forward, and now and I feel like without there being a dearth of superhero movies or any thought being put into it, because I'm sorry, there's no thought being put into this. Other than the fact of like, well, we can tease this character here so that they go and give us money the next time and all this kind of stuff. That's not.
You mean it's thought as far as the actual storytelling?
Yeah, like is it going to be good? Like those are the things I care about, because like it is like everyone always points to the Western and how it took 30 years for the Western to collapse. Well, that's true, but movie audiences were less fickle back then than they are now. Movie theaters
there also wasn't as much.
Exactly, and movie theaters are also dying.
They are dying.
It's hard for me to put into words like why I look at something like this particular grid and I get concerned, because I'm like, what makes any of this special anymore? What draws you to want to see every one of these movies? When someone tweets me and they're like, I want to see every one of those movies, and I'm like, but why? I'm a sci-fi fan, but that doesn't mean I want to see every science fiction movie, because I don't want to give my money to the bullshit or support the things that like aren't going to bring science fiction forward or make it meaningful. You know what I mean? So there's like way too much fandom surrounding this shit. And that's the thing that bothers me. That's the one salient point that I'm like, that's what bothers me. Just because it comes from a fucking comic book doesn't mean that it's going to be good or worthwhile. You know what I mean? And that's why I look at something like this and I'm concerned. I'm like, they're just trying to get all of their money now because they know that too. And it couldn't be any more obvious. That's why the Star Wars movies are coming out in 6 years, 6 of them in 6 years. You know what I mean? Get it while the going's good. You know? And so there's an oversaturation point that I think is going to be instrumental here. Am I going to be wrong? Sure. I've been wrong about a bunch of things with comic books. I don't know the industry. You know, all I'm saying is that as an outside observer, I'd be way more excited if you cut fucking 3/5 of these out and made sure that the other 2/5 were really, really fucking awesome and that they were awesome events. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I could already look at 2 of these movies and know that they're going to be bad. Batman versus Superman, I have no hope for that movie. Suicide Squad, just looking at the Joker in that movie makes me nervous about seeing it. I'll be there because I like the Batman inclusion of some of those characters, but you know, I'm already getting bad vibes from some of these things, and some of them are established. Civil War is going to be huge. Guardians of the Galaxy, no doubt about it. And Guardians of the Galaxy is a great example of a movie that I would have looked at and been like, "Who the fuck cares about that?" Totally wrong. So I could be wrong about all of this, but I see another Spider-Man reboot.
But it's hard because when you look at this, you can't just lump all these into it's the superhero genre. It's like that's not. I mean, that's a classification, but it's not so much a genre. Like these movies have genres, you know.
Well, no, I think at this point the superhero movie is a genre, and
yeah,
I think that's what
like
people
labels
are.
and labels and labels. But it's just like they each have different genres of movie.
Well, I mean, there's different types of movies.
Like
sure.
There's comedies, there's dramas, there's action. You know what I mean? Like there's differences between all of it. And it's like at one point, it's just these are just movies. So it's like, is there too many movies coming out? Like, why do we have an argument about this specifically? You know,
Colin mentions the Western, and that is a very, very, very important genre to remember, because the Western used to be very, very prevalent up until probably I want to say the 80s. In the 80s, they just stopped. Now, they used to make Westerns all the time. There used to be like multiple Westerns in theaters. Maybe I think Clint Eastwood made his entire career off making like Western after Western after Western after Western. That was one of the most popular genres available in cinema. Now you don't see it. When's the last Western that came out? Not counting a Seth MacFarlane Western, which I don't count that as a Western. That's more of a spoof, right? So I mean, eventually these will die. We are in the middle of this right now. Hopefully, we're at the beginning of it, so the studios can remain salient, solvent. But eventually, yes. I mean, I can even feel it myself, right? I'm sure Tim will be like, Nick, we got to go see Ant-Man at midnight, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna want to see that, right? I probably will this time, but I don't know if I'm gonna see I'm not seeing Fantastic Four at midnight. I'm just not gonna see that, right?
Yeah.
And in me, that's almost disappointing, because I'm like, dude, I would have, when I was a kid, I would have absolutely waited.
Well,
in
no,
line.
I mean, that's just the boat changing. I mean, it's already the tides have changed, just where I don't go see everything at midnight anymore, and there's movies I don't go see. You know what I mean? Like, I made sure when all the Marvel movies were releasing, right, not even being a Marvel guy, I went and saw them all right away. But like when Thor 2 came around, no. And then once that domino hit, then a million other did too. Where I just came up and I'm like, I have no desire to go see that. No, so that's why, like, yeah, Fantastic Four, they're gonna have to try really hard to get me to go see that. Ant-Man, you guys will probably go see it at midnight, which I won't want to do. And then, yeah, I don't know when I'll ever see it. Deadpool, I'm in for. Superman, obviously. Civil War, X-Men. Like, I like the last X-Men. You know what I mean? But like, I'm not middle of the night. Go see it. I'll get to when I get to it. Doctor Strange, I have no desire to. They have to completely work from scratch on that. Suicide Squad, I'm obviously in. Gambit, I don't care about. Wolverine, I'll want to go see in theaters. Guardians 2, I enjoyed Guardians 1. I'll go see it. Wonder Woman, of course. New Spider-Man, I hope. Again, it's one of those things where I hope he's so good in Civil War or whatever that it's like I want to know more about him. Fantastic Four obviously depends on Fantastic Four, so on and so on and so on.
Yeah, I think that
But real quick, too, sorry to get around. I disagree with you that they're not doing anything or building anything. I think that what we're talking about with the Marvel Cinematic Universe is that there is something there. There is something to it. I like the fact that everybody exists in the same thing, which is exciting.
Yeah, and it's unprecedented. It's never happened before.
I respect that. All I'm saying is that there's no. It makes me cringe, frankly, that a Marvel or DC or whatever can be like, here are all the movies we're going to come out in 4 or 5 years, and everyone gets excited about it. It makes me fucking cringe.
But you know what I mean? Like, and what we do with games.
No, I don't get that way with games. That's why I like with you know,
Final Fantasy
I'm totally. I think it's exciting that they announced it now. I'm totally full of skepticism about whether the game's even going to come out.
Yeah,
I just don't feel like it. There's just something so off about the way this is all happening. Like I know it's such an unpopular opinion, and I know a lot of our fans or whatever. I mean, they're just gonna, you know, you're gonna have to deal with the fact that I'm not feeling it. You know, like there's something. He's not feeling it. There's just, when I look at this grid, I'm like, there's just something totally off about this. Like, Sony's gonna shove another Spider-Man reboot down your throat, and you're gonna go see it. They just rebooted Spider-Man twice in the last 10 years, and now they're going to reboot it again.
Well, can't you only reboot once? They booted it once and they rebooted it. Sorry, I'm getting off.
Yeah, you know, but now it's going to be in the Marvel universe, so now it actually matters, and I guess that's just based on the new rules. I mean, it's like they're rebooting. I trust me. Spider-Man is my favorite of all the characters, and it's like, do we need another origin story? Fuck no, we don't. Please don't fucking do that.
Did they say this is going to be an origin story?
No. But I'm just saying, it's like, don't give me that. But it's like just a reboot of Spider-Man. It's like there's been 10 million reboots of Spider-Man on TV. Some have been great. Some have been bad.
Ultimate Spider-Man was the best, right?
It was
You're talking about Ultimate Spider-Man?
I'm talking about Spectacular Spider-Man being
I don't
the
know
best.
what that means.
But it's just like, these are characters that are going to just continuously be rebooted. So it's like, for people to be like, oh, these movies have been rebooted, it's like, they have, but I mean, is this one going to be good is all that matters. Like, it doesn't matter about the Sam Raimi movies or the Andrew Garfield movies, like, whatever. We're talking about the new one, which is now in the universe people actually give a shit about.
Yeah.
And is it going to be good?
It does begs the question, though, and Colin, what you're really responding to is the fact that, like, there's, you know, when this whole genre actually got started, right, when you're seeing Iron Man, like, they put so much heart and effort into the storytelling in that movie, and it was good.
Iron Man was awesome.
And it ended up being really, really good. And then to use that as a micro example, Iron Man 2,
terrible.
Not good. I mean, entertaining for what it is. Iron Man 3, different.
I liked Iron Man 3. That was a heartfelt story of him with PTSD.
I liked it, but they weren't Iron Man. They just weren't the original, right? And so when you look at this, you're like, how much effort can they and focus can they really put in all of these?
Even to that,
to make them good.
I feel like that's the same argument of like why before anyone in 2015 through 2019 tweets hashtag Colin was right about any of this, you need to define what the bottom falling out is.
No one's going to tweet that.
I mean, to me, the bottom
falling they are.
out.
But stop. Let me talk for 2 seconds to get my point out before I lose it, because I'll lose it. We had no expectations for Iron Man. So everyone walked into Iron Man and was like, holy shit, that was awesome, because it was way better than what we thought. It's the same thing with Avengers 1 versus Avengers 2, where, yeah, Avengers 2 didn't make enough money as Avengers 1. So is that the beginning of the end, or is it just the fact that nothing can be Avengers again? Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, to me, the bottom dropping out is when they actually cancel one of the movies.
Ooh, that's a good point.
They've already canceled movies. Spider-Man. Because it was shit.
Well, yeah, but Sony doesn't know what the fuck they're doing.
But Sony's included on
when one of these movies on this list decide, like when they're like, hey,
when Fantastic Four is so bad they kill Fantastic Four.
Yeah, we're not doing Fantastic Four again. That'll be a marker. That'll be okay, this is not so good. I mean, that'll be them literally trimming back their share of the market.
I mean, there's a lot of,
we're not going to invest so much.
But see, that's my thoughts on that. Are looking at this list, which ones even have a possibility of being canceled? It's none of the Marvel ones.
Really?
It's none of the Marvel Studios ones, with the exception of possibly Inhumans.
Okay.
Which they probably haven't even written yet, and they're already announcing it. And
that's canceling any of the other ones.
And that's the difference between what you were talking about with games. What game was announced that is going to come out in 2019 or 2018? You know what I mean? Other than like what Square Enix is already like, you know what I mean? Like it's different. In fact, like it's as we've talked about many times in games, it's trending in the opposite direction. Fallout 4 was just announced and it's coming out in this year. You know, I just feel like, to Nick's point, there's just not enough resources or brain power to massage every one of these. You know what I mean? And you know, again, I'll say it, like we went into I saw Iron Man in the theater and I fucking loved it. I thought it was awesome. Yeah, and I like that character a lot. I relate to Iron Man the same reason I relate to Batman, because he's just a normal person. And that's what I like. So I'm disposed to few of these movies because I just think the whole superhero, like superpower thing is just corny, you know? That's just like me, but I'm not trying to judge it based on that. What I'm judging it on is based on, you know, I saw Batman Begins in 2005, and we went and we had no expectations of that either, right? Christopher Nolan had basically made like Memento, and that was basically it. Like, don't even know who the fuck he was, right? And the movie ended up being extraordinary, right? And those particular kinds of movies, whether it's Iron Man or whether it's Batman, set a cadence where it'd be like, we can make good movies if we are deliberate. It took 10 years almost for all those Batman movies to come out. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And they took their time, and they didn't announce them 4 years ahead of time, and they didn't have preconceived notions. Certainly, they had to make a change after the second Batman movie, because Joker was clearly going to be in the third one too. You know, so there was all sorts of things that they had to do, movement they had to make. They weren't bold enough, and frankly brash enough, and frankly arrogant enough to say, here is our slate this far ahead of time, and you're going to fucking love it. You know what I mean? And to me, that just is, it's conspicuous consumption on their end to say, like, we are so fucking powerful that we're going to announce all of this shit and you're going to love it. Most of the people that see these movies do not read comic books, and they're getting excited based on hype, and I'm always skeptical of hype.
But see, the thing about the announcing, and the thing that's what's different than video games and works for this, is the fact that as a comic book guy myself, there's a lot of these characters that I am not familiar with, that I do not necessarily care about, but because there's now a movie coming out, I've looked into and I've gotten interested in and I've wanted to know more about. And I feel like Iron Man's a perfect example of no one gave a fuck about Iron Man until the Iron Man movie came out. Now, he's one of the, you know, everyone's favorite character is Iron Man. But looking at this, it's like, I didn't know who the Inhumans were. I still don't care, but I know who they are now because they announced this.
Yeah.
You know?
Like Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, exactly. When you start looking at all these things, it's like when you do watch the movies, you're going to be looking out for the things, because everyone wants to be able to say, like, oh, did you catch this? Like, I know this thing, you know? Like, no one knew who Thanos was at the end of Avengers, except for that handful of people. Now when people go into these movies, everyone's like, oh, at the end of stuff, it's like,
yeah, you
either didn't know who that was, or you only know because you've done research now. Like,
sure.
you've invested into this world. And it's like, yeah, should that be how movies are? I don't know, but people buy into it because of that. I do. And, you know, these movies are shaping comic books for better or for worse. You know, like you see all the business going on of Marvel not doing Fantastic Four movies, limiting their X-Men storylines and all that stuff because they don't own the movie rights to those. And that's unfortunate for comic book readers, but at the same time, like you're saying, the numbers aren't there for the comic book readers. It's not about them. It's about the people informing them about these characters in every media, whether it's TV shows or comics or games or anything. But the movies are what gets the money, and the movies are what is getting everybody, not just comic book fans, paying for the characters.
Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree. I again, it's not a matter of, and like to my point I was trying to make to Greg before, is like a lot of people are not, like, there's going to be, most of the people that listen to this are not going to agree with me at all.
But it's not a thing of agreement. You're going to get a thing of like Fantastic Four underperforms, and they're going to tweet you the link with hashtag Colin was right. And that's why I was like, I want to define what we think, what defines what's right about it.
I just feel like it was what I was talking about before with fandom, right? Getting excited about things. I get really excited about things. G.I. Joe, for instance, is like one of my favorite IPs of all time. Mm-hmm. I couldn't have been any less excited about those G.I. Joe movies. I fucking hated that first movie.
Yeah, but you saw the preview of that and you're like, oh, this is gonna be
but when I heard it, I'm like, no, there's something totally fucked up about this. I already know it. You know? Like, why are you even doing this? G.I. Joe is not G.I. Joe the way we know G.I. Joe, the campiness of G.I. Joe. You can't capture that in a movie. Yeah, it's not possible.
Correct.
So, like, there comes a time when it's important to say, like, I might love something or I might be excited about something, but I need to temper that because I don't want to send the wrong signal to the people that make these decisions that this is what is acceptable to me as a G.I. Joe fan, for instance, right? And I think that fandom gets too into into something without a consequence, whether it's a commercial consequence, whether it's a critical consequence of like basically telegraphing their intentions years ahead of time to say like, yeah, I'm in, and like, I'm like, but you don't know anything about it. They just announced it. And showed a logo and stuff like that. And like people are already, so to me, it's coming from a place of like, we deserve better than being treated like that. Because announcing your movies this boldly is fucking bullshit. And I don't, and I'll stand by that. Like, regardless of the quality of the movies, they can all be great and they can all make $1 billion, and I don't care. But I'll always stand by the fact that like they had the nerve to announce movies this early. And remember that these weren't announced recently. These movies were announced, I think, last year.
We were in the car somewhere, I remember.
You know what I mean?
Somewhere, yeah.
And like that to me is the height of fucking absurdity. And so that's like where I get really annoyed by it. You know what I mean? Like, you're so Marvel. Like, what was even the point of announcing these movies? The point
was building the hype for it and making people understand what they're looking forward to, what they're building towards, the fact that this is a universe, and that, there's going to be the spin-off not spin-offs, but like standalone side movies and the Thor movies that like don't really matter, but they're coming and you should be interested in them. But don't worry, Avengers 3 is coming, and Avengers 3 Part 2 is coming.
So yeah, I respect that. I mean, if people are excited about this and want to go, I mean, it's your money, it's your time, it's your life. And I know that nerddom has grown. That's why I was bringing up Comic-Con. Most people that go to Comic-Con have no allegiance to comic books. They go because this is a whole new. We've talked about this before about like it wasn't like this when we were kids. Comic books were completely irrelevant when we were kids, and in terms of popular culture.
Yeah.
And popular culture is now comic culture in terms of convention culture, in terms of. Look how well.
Go to Target and buy your Green Lantern shirt and all this different stuff.
Exactly.
That never would have happened when we were growing up.
Exactly. It's like a totally unfit. That's why something like Iron Man was so excited when X-Men came out, or when Spider-Man even came out, Raimi's Spider-Man. It was just like, I saw all these movies and I actually really liked Raimi's first Spider-Man movie anyway.
Number 2 was so good.
But to me, it was like, I didn't care at all about comic books back then. And I still don't. But I still got excited about these movies because, like you were saying, it's about characters and worlds and stuff like that. But when they just have the boldness and the brashness to be like, we're going to shove all of this shit directly down your throat. You know what I mean? And like, it's unsavory to me, and I don't like it. So, am I going to be wrong? Does almost everyone that listens to this disagree with me? Absolutely positive about that. But I have to be true to the way I feel about these things and why I feel about them.
I think it goes back to what you're always talking about, and then we got to end. I know, but I mean, it goes back to what you're always talking about with the market. Is like, you feel it's bold and brash, and they're shoving it down your throats. I mean, they're giving us what we wanted. Like, this is, I feel like the fight. Don't get me wrong, I've been fighting for a fucking Gambit movie, but I've been wanting.
But you are, but I am.
Yeah,
Gambit
exactly.
movie's fucking awesome.
So I mean, like, I don't feel like they're shoving it down our throat as much as like, hey, we're listening. This is what we're gonna do, and it's based on what the market wants. And maybe that all explodes now, and we see what happens. But that's that. Nick.
Yes.
What's your topic?
My topic, of course, comes from a little site called Patreon.
Oh. .com/kindafunny.
Do I read this whole thing? Should I read this whole thing?
Yeah, read the whole thing.
Okay.
Who's it from?
This is from Tack Track.
My boy Tack Track.
His album's over there. One day we'll listen to it and do a topic on it.
Tack Track. The topic is strippers and strip club. I want you guys to discuss any kind of funny story from a night you were at one. I assume he means the strip club, not the stripper. Here's a short one of mine that you may share.
Oh, okay, good.
Before I was an indie rapper, I was a cop. Great start to a story right there. And I was at a place called Diamonds in beautiful Illinois. I was getting a private dance, and a stripper took, I don't know how to say that. Saget?
Yeah,
Saget.
There's a Diamonds by the DuPage County Airport. I wasn't sure if it was the same one, so I was checking.
I was getting a private dance, and the stripper took my belt off. Well, my burner fell out, and she started freaking the fuck out. Burner, of course, being a small gun, I assume.
Yeah.
Kevin made this.
This. This means gun.
This means gun. Okay, cool.
Or it's come hither.
Like, she was effing screaming. I yell, whoa, 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 whoa. It's okay. I'm an STL cop. I pulled my badge out from underneath my shirt and showed it to her. Needless to say, the bouncer had already been alerted and kindly asked me to leave. I collected my piece and got the hell out of there.
That's kind of scary.
A much better story than any strip club stories that I have.
Do you have any?
Oh, I got a ton.
Give me one. You can't just say that and leave.
No, actually, I think one of the funniest things that happens to me all the time in strip clubs, I don't know why this happens with my group specifically, is we always accidentally leave one guy behind. And by accidentally, I mean, like, we get out to the park. Like, it takes, if you've been in a strip club for longer than an hour, like, you don't know what, there's no
time
windows.
It doesn't work the same way.
So you're like, what the shit time is it? And then someone has the presence of mind to look at their watch and go, we got to get out of here. Like, it's 6 a.m. And so you walk out, And this has happened to me on multiple occasions. You walk out and it's sunny outside.
Ugh.
Where you're like, oh my God, that's morning. And then, of course, it's the realization and like the terror that you feel is quickly taken over by the fact that you realize, hey, it's breakfast time. I'm going to go get some sort of scramble or maybe a breakfast buffet. But inevitably, we always get in the cab. And we do a head count. You do the Home Alone head count.
Sure.
And you don't realize that the neighbor kid's not really Kevin.
Yeah.
And you're on the way home. You're like, wait, where's so and so? I'm not going to name any names, but it's always one of my friends. It's always this one friend.
So it's the same.
It's
friend.
the exact same friend every single time.
Of course it is.
And I'm like, where is he? And someone will be like, you know what? I think he wanted to stay in the club. And you're like, okay. And you don't ask. Because you don't need to ask, you know exactly what's happening. Like someone's getting a VIP dance, or they're in the champagne room. But it's always hilarious because then that next day, of course, or whenever that person turns up again, you're like,
the shit does not stop.
What the fuck did you do? Like, how much did you pay? What did you have done? What's going on? Especially when you're in Vegas, because you have to be really careful. Like a lot of these places they're built to basically gouge you, for one, and two, they might not be of the most legal and ethical of establishments. I.e., they might actually be brothels. No, they're not. Prostitution is not legal in Carson City, which I think is where Vegas, or whatever county Vegas is actually in. It's not legal there.
Really?
It's legal outside of that county, so you have to travel like when you see those documentaries like the Moonlight Bunny Ranch and stuff. That's outside of that county where it actually is legal, but you can still get very much arrested for prostitution in Vegas. Correct me if I'm wrong.
You're right,
but I'm pretty sure I'm right.
Wow.
But yeah, so you have to be really, really careful. And yeah, strip clubs in general are an interesting sort of slice of life. And I've had a lot of fun in strip clubs, I'm not gonna lie, but not because of the interaction between myself and the strippers, because we've gone with, like any other situation, we've gone with a great group of people that are just partying, and some people are new to it, and especially if it's a co-ed group where you've got women involved and they've never been to that before or seen that spectacle, it can be fun watching them go through the sort of the experience of like seeing what strip clubs really are versus what their perception of them used to be. And they're cool. They're not my preferred place to spend time, though.
No.
In general, I like to, if I have that group, I'd much rather be at a bar where we
they're
can talk.
lonely and awkward and weird.
Well,
and you never feel comfortable sitting in the seats.
Yeah. And no matter what any stripper tells you, they're lying to you. You're not the best looking guy.
Like, no matter what they say, they're lying.
They're lying. I mean, it's like Disneyland, right? It's all make believe. It's like you're paying for a sort of fantasy that they're giving to you. Yeah, I'm sorry, Tim. It's not real. Disneyland's not real. Sorry.
This is really sad.
Tim, you're the pure one. Have you been to a strip club?
Yes, I've been to a strip. Well, I was about to say 2 strip clubs. That's not true. I've been to 1 strip club twice. Both times with Nick Scarpino.
Nice.
Both times at the Hot Shots Part 2 bachelor parties where it was the same movie twice.
Same strippers?
No, different strippers.
They're all different. We went to the Olympic Gardens in Vegas. Because it's
no.
Yeah, the OG.
No.
What?
That's not where we went.
Yeah, we did.
No.
Both times. You guys went to a different one. The first time you came, you guys went to Sapphires.
We went to Sapphire. I was at Sapphire both. I've never been to Olympic Gardens. I didn't go to that. I just chose not to.
That was smart of you. A lot of money was spent at that particular club on particular things. But yeah, they're fun. It is one of those things where like you look over and you see the guy that's there by himself and you're like, oh man, don't be that guy. Don't go to a strip club by yourself. And for the love of God,
Well, do you if you want to?
No, don't. This is one of those where I'm very supportive of anyone that wants to do things. It's perfectly legal and you're not really hurting anyone. But in this instance, you are hurting yourself. It is not a good way to spend your money. It is something that you can. I've seen multiple times. I've seen my friends actually fall in love with strippers, and it never turns out well because most of their whole goal is to get money out of you. That's the point.
Yeah. So they're being super nice and acting like they're really.
They're flirting with you.
Yeah.
They're making you feel like you're sexy, and it is not real, and that is really fucked up if you start to think about that. So if you're going to go to a club, I'm not saying you can't go and enjoy that, and I'm not speaking badly about strippers at all. For the love of God, they make a lot of money, and more power to you if that's what you want to do with your life. Great. But if you're the guy that thinks that stripper really loves you, she doesn't. She doesn't love you. And
it's so hard to understand because, like, for me, there was a time in high school where we're all sitting around in the basement playing Madden or whatever the hell we were playing. I'm not sure anymore. And it finally all dawned on us that one by one that hey, we're all 18 now. we can go to a strip club. So then we, of course, we went upstairs to the computer room, as you had back in the day, and went online to find a strip club. Found the Admiral in the outskirts of Chicago.
Right.
Found out they had coupons, so we printed the coupon to go into the Admiral for like 2 for 1 or whatever off my mom's printer.
Naturally.
And then we drove out there, got there, used the coupons. Immediately, we're like, they're like, we hate these kids already. You clearly have no money and don't know what you're doing, but come on in. You come in and with this group of 18-year-old guys, like, what the hell is happening? All these things. And we knew coming in that these people will say anything to you and they will do anything, and they aren't really into you. They are not really into you. Don't fall for the traps. And sure enough, one of our friends sat down, and then this girl's talking to him, and clearly and we're all like, invite her over to this party we're going to on Friday. Do you want to come to this high school party we're all going to on Friday? And she never called him. Never called him once.
See, this is so funny. So you have that advice, and then you give this story. I have a completely different story from my friend who went to a strip club in Vegas, and this whole thing happened. He was like, dude, she's really into me. And I'm like, when he was telling me this, I'm like, there's no way. Like, especially knowing this guy, I'm like, there's no fucking way. And then he was like, yeah, and then I started talking, and he did every single thing he told me made me cringe. And I'm like, dude, why would you do that to yourself, to anybody? Like, he paid, she took him in the back room, and he's like, no, we don't need to do that. Like, I just want to talk to you. And I'm like, Jesus. Oh, good fucking Lord, I hate you so much. Like,
married for 15 years now.
And no, so there was a lot of other things that happened, but they were all equally cringeworthy. And I'm just like, stop this story right now. And it ended with him being like, hey, I'm gonna go to get some food. It was breakfast at that point. Do you want to come with me? And she's like, yeah, sure. I get off in like whatever,
30
minutes
or
whatever.
Okay.
It was a significant amount of time. He's like, all right, I'll just stay. And she was just like, all right. And then he just stayed with her and kept paying her for that whole time. It was just like, all right, that's weird. And or not weird, that's what happens. And it turns into this thing where they leave. And this is the part of the story that I was like, oh, dude, please just stop. He was like, yeah, she wanted to go meet me at this pho place, but her phone was dead. So she couldn't like get my number or whatever. And she was going to go to get her charger from her house or whatever and then meet me at this place. So she said to meet there in an hour. And I was just like, well, fuck. So he goes to this place. And he's just sitting there waiting for her, and she doesn't come. It's just like, oh, Lord, no shit, you fucking idiot.
Yeah.
And 10 minutes later, she comes in. She's like, oh, my, like, running in, hella, like, sorry, like, fuck. Like, there was, like, hella traffic and stuff. And they dated for, like, maybe almost a year after that. And I'm like, then they broke up. But it's like, oh, and she gave him back the money from that extra 2 hours of, like, just him waiting for her because she had to take it just to like as an excuse to be able to hang out with him. Other people wouldn't like give him shit. But I was like, I can't believe that happened like that.
That worked out for you.
That makes no fucking sense. Not likely though. Don't count on that.
Don't get me wrong. I was going to say I have friends who when the girl was like you want like when they're like do you want to get out of here and go do something else? So like yeah, I got off in 2 hours and they have had sex with strippers. Not paid for it. I have known plenty of people that have actually hooked up with them. But for every one of those guys I have known like 50 of the guys that are like, dude, I don't know, man. I'm feeling something about this girl. You know what I mean? I'm like,
we have a connection.
What you're feeling is your wallet is getting lighter, and your wife is getting more and more pissed. So like, damn. And that's the thing. It's all fun and games when you're in your 20s, but when you're 35 years old and married, and like my wife totally knows that I've gone to strip clubs. I'm fully transparent with her on anything that I do, because she also knows that I'm. For as much of a pervert as I am, I'm also a cheap bastard. So I'm not. It really balances it out. So I'm not paying for any sort of sexual act. It's just not going to happen. Just a waste of time, bro. I get that at home for free once a month, no problem. But I've known a couple. I've had quite a few friends that have like. I mean, and I'm like, what are you doing on Saturday night? Nothing. And I'm like. And then I hear from like the grapevine that they've gone back to the strip club to see Candy or Cheetah or whatever the fuck the girl's name is, right?
I want to meet Cheetah.
And you're like, dude, just don't do it. Like if you're gonna go to a strip club, go with a group of friends, be responsible for each other, and for Christ's sake, when that one friend wants to stay, drag his ass out by the scruff of his neck. And just he's gonna regret it no matter what. He's gonna be like, why did I spend $3,000 on that experience? It wasn't worth it. And every once in a while those places get raided, man. So be careful. because
strip clubs you going to getting raided?
Vegas strip clubs.
Oh yeah?
Oh yeah, they get shut down all the time.
For drugs or what?
There's the most famous one is there's one called the Crazy Horse 3 because 1 and 2 got shut down.
Oh wow, that's funny. That's cool that they keep bringing back the
And they just keep bringing it back, and
like
they keep
when we
getting shut
bankrupt
down.
Kind of Funny and come back as Kind of Funny too.
But no, I mean, I know friends. I have friends that are good looking and very charismatic that have managed to do that. Managed to hook up with strippers, and more, power to them because I mean, they are people.
Yeah,
these aren't like animatronic robots, right? Like, sure, they're going to be sexually attracted to you, and there's an environment that's conducive to that, but. Don't count on that, guys. And at the end of the day, I've known people that have dated strippers. I have never known one where that's worked out for them. And I've known people that have married strippers, and then I've had children with strippers, and then it just didn't work out. It doesn't work out.
That's just marriage and children in general.
That's true.
Colin, you hitting up the strip clubs?
Yeah, I mean, the first time I went to a strip club, I was 17. In New York, I don't know if it's still the law, but in New York, you had to be 21 to go to strip clubs because they serve alcohol.
Still a lot here.
And
if they serve alcohol, you have to be 21 and over.
And it was my brother's bachelor party. It was in 2002. I was still in high school. And I was 17. And because we were with a party, like none of us got carded.
Yeah.
I was clearly not 21. Like as clear as the day is long. There was this one hot blonde stripper that like I identified, and my brother's best friend, PJ, was like
sounds like a porn name.
He was like, he's like, he gave me $20 and she gave me a lap dance, and I'll like never forget it because she was so hot, but she was so weird. She knew I wasn't 21. She's like, how old are you? And I'm like 21. And then you
had like the grin.
Yeah. And like she's just like,
she falls out of your pocket.
She's like on top of me. And I'll never forget as long as I live. She's like, you're wearing the wrong pants for a strip club. Because I had like jeans on or whatever. And she's like, you should wear parachute pants with no underwear. So that like when they rub up on you or whatever, like it feels good or whatever. And I'm like, I remember like being like, wow, what sage advice. And years later, I was like, man, that's fucking raunchy.
I'm pretty sure I have uncles that have their strip club pants, which are just basically oversized sweatpants, like the sweatpants with the elastic band on the waist and the ankles.
Yeah,
like those old school like 80s sweats where they're just like. And then they don't work out, and people do that. People definitely do that.
She tried to give me a tip, and I also remember that. Later on, I got another. My dad came through at some point with my dad, which is so funny. Because my dad's like not into this, but I think he was just trying to be supportive. And then my uncles came, and that was when shit got funny because I went back to this blonde girl again, and she gave me another lap dance. And my uncle, I'm not gonna say anything. My uncles are standing like leaning against the bar, just looking at me, laughing. The entire time that I'm getting, because like they're they know that I'm like 17 and I'm like about to graduate high school. So that was my first strip club experience, and I've been to strip clubs many times since. But it's not. I never go. I always go because it's ironic to go. I will tell you that I dated a girl once who later became a stripper, and we still used to hang out just as friends. Mm-hmm. She came to pick me up when I was in college. When I came home, and we were just gonna go out to eat, and I look in her back seat or whatever, and she has like these huge heels, like stripper heels.
Stripper heels, yeah.
And I remember taking one and being like, "What the fuck are these?" And she was like, "Oh, they're just like shoes or whatever." And I just threw them back there and didn't think about it again. And we went out to eat, and then literally 5 years later, when I'm in this apartment, I have this epiphany, and I'm like, "Wait a minute!" And like literally out of nowhere, and I text message her, and I'm like, that day in your car when I showed you your heels, were you stripping back then? And she was like, yeah, with like a smiley face, and I was like, what the fuck? And she's like, and she said something like, I don't know how you didn't know.
Yeah,
you're like, because you didn't tell me.
Yeah, and
that's how I didn't know.
And I'm like, I'm more proud to do you. I respect you, do what you want to do. But so yeah, those are my experiences. In Massachusetts, strip clubs were weird because not weird. I mean, you're not allowed to get lap dances. The girls can't touch you, and vice versa in Massachusetts. I don't know if that's still the law, but it's very Puritan. And you can't buy beer, for instance, or liquor on Sundays in Massachusetts, which is why all of the liquor stores in New Hampshire and Connecticut are all on the border. So they weren't very fun there. The ones in New York were interesting. I've been to a couple here for bachelor parties and stuff like that. I haven't gotten a lap dance at a strip club since I was 18 or 19. I just go to. There's always a reason I'm going. It's never
always a bachelor party or something.
Pretty much. Yeah. It's never like a let's go to the strip club tonight. I do think that it's a profound waste of money. The last time I went to a strip club was for my friend Kevin's bachelor party. The Kevin that
won the Juke Mania 2015.
And most of our friends are, we're all older now, and a lot of them are married and stuff like that. It was so funny. We were just like, didn't want to spend money. We were just like there. They like didn't want us there.
Yeah,
I remember I ordered a drink, and then I filled it up with a flask, and they were like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm just trying to save a few bucks." So
I went to a bachelor party in Minnesota, and it was like small town Minnesota on the outskirts of the Twin Cities. It wasn't in the Twin Cities or anything like that. And yeah, we went out to a strip club for the bachelor party, closed it down, and as we were leaving, I got recognized. Guy's like, "Hey, Greg Miller." I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Be on. Can I take a photo?" I'm like, "Yeah, come on outside." I'm all drunk in Minnesota taking photos outside the strip club.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. To me, the strip clubs have some sort of. I mean, to me, they don't have any sort of taboo. I know a lot of people think of strip clubs and they're like, "Oh, they're bad or evil or whatever." I mean, maybe there's that perception
They've never
of there.
been to a strip club.
But I mean, to me, they're just a bar.
They're just there.
Where
They make shitty drinks.
They make bad drinks. They cost way too much, and
you feel bad for the entertainment.
No matter what you do, I don't feel bad for them.
I
don't feel bad for strippers, and I don't mean that in like a I'm on my pulpit.
I mean
that they make a shitload of money, and they always get me. They always get me. They know exactly what it takes. Because before I walk into every strip club, I'm like, not today. You're not getting me today. I'm not getting a lap dance. I'm buying one drink, and then like $400 later, I'm like, how? How did it happen? And I've been to multiple. I consider myself like
a connoisseur.
Guarded. No, like I've been to so many strip clubs in my life because I'm 36 for Christ's sake. I've been to like 8 bachelor parties, and every single time everyone's like, "Well, wait, no one bothered to plan anything, so let's go to a strip club." And it's like, all right, if I have to. And every time I walk in, I'm like, I'm not gonna play this game because I know that it's such a fake game. They are just saying this script in that they've been taught to get money out of your pocket, and then somehow, some way, I'm like, no, I'm not getting a lap dance. 2 hours later, I'm like, well, all right, this is happening, I guess.
Yeah. I've gotten one lap dance in my life. It was the first bachelor party, and I remember thinking I'm never going to forget this girl's name just because of this experience. I no longer remember that girl's name.
Oh,
so I don't know what that says.
Just go with Cherry.
It wasn't Cherry.
Sparkles, Crystal. It's probably Crystal.
Definitely started with a P, but I don't remember what.
Pootie Tang.
It was weird. It was weird and it had a P.
Peaches,
but and it wasn't.
Precious. Peaches is a good one.
It wasn't Peaches.
Yeah, I just feel like my usual game is to just go into the strip club, go to the bar, get them like $20. I'm like, just give me 20 singles, and then selectively throughout the night, when I see a woman, that I'm attracted to, well, a lot of them will like want you to, they're like, they'll like go and like put their ass out or their side out, and you put it in the little, into the G string or whatever. I'm like, I'll accept it, I'll allow that, but typically, I don't know, it's just strip clubs are weird, but they exist because there's demand for them. And that's the thing that I always try to keep in mind. I'm like, it's just, I kind of think that they're funny. I think the girls there, a lot of the girls are hot. There's no doubt about it. It's just, there is a point where like me and my brother always make fun of it. Like the people that are at strip clubs that are eating, that's like my
the buffet
fucking favorite. Like when, like you can go to like a lot of strip clubs and like they're eating dinner. And I'm like, that is fucking awesome. You are sitting there eating a cheeseburger with a naked ass woman 3 feet from you.
I like that.
And I'm like, that's when you just don't care anymore. and not in a bad way, but in a good way.
Awesome. I don't like the pressure of the strip club and I don't want all the attention and stuff. I just want to look from afar, which is why I don't need to go to a strip club. I can look at Google Images and be just okay.
Your generation's ruining. You're putting this out of business just like you're putting the newspapers out of business.
You're not getting the smell. That's the thing you're missing.
Oh, here's the thing. I will never remember her name, but I'll never forget her smell.
Oh God, it's the smell of like stale liquor,
beer, that's what I'm talking about.
Cigarettes,
perfect.
and that amazing stripper perfume that they all wear that just stays on you for like 15 days. Oh my
God,
like
it's so good.
You could like delouse yourself like a prison delousing, and it would still be there. It's amazing.
Yeah, I don't. It's just there's something weird about the eating of the food there. Like you're asking your waitress for more ketchup as some woman's vagina is like 5 feet from your face.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you know what I mean. I'm like, it's just there comes a point where I'm like, it's just too much.
Yeah,
just sit there with a drink in your hand and enjoy yourself.
Yeah, go out to eat beforehand if you're gonna go to a strip club, for Christ's sake. Because you know what? You also think no stripper wants to like talk to you while you're horking down a fucking
I just want to
burger.
Eat. You with me, Kevin? All right,
of course, Kevin's with you.
We're going to eat some cheeseburgers. It's going to be awesome.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's another episode of the Game Over Greggy Show. If you didn't know, each and every week, 4, sometimes 5 best friends gather on this table. I almost thought I had you. I thought you were way out of the zone.
I keep trying to throw you off. I keep trying to make you think that I ain't ready, but I'm always ready.
Oh, my God. Bringing random topics of conversation for your amusement. If you like that, head to patreon.com/kindafunny and toss us a few bucks. You get the entire episode early each and every Friday. Like a stripper. Maybe we can add that as a tier. We'll dance for you. You get a video chat dance. I don't know if you can do that.
I'm going to do it. And you can eat too, and no one will judge you except Colin.
Nah, I'm judging too.
I'm gonna judge you. I'm just gonna judge you. I mean, it's. I mean, do you? But
if you don't want to give us any money, you can go to youtube.com/kindafunny and get the show broken up topic by topic, day by day, until we post the entire thing as an MP3 and video on the following Friday. Gentlemen, this has been a journey today.
It's been a long one.
From gay marriage to the strip club eating. I'm a big fan. Ladies and gentlemen, until next time, it's been our pleasure to serve you.